Story 1. AIO because my 20FBF 21M prayed to Trump at my family's dinner. Original post, December 27, 2024. Title, AIO because my 20FBF 21M prayed to Trump at my family's dinner. This is the first time he's ever done this, so I don't get why it had to be in front of me or my family. We disagree on some things politically, but he never liked Trump either. AIO in our texts or reevaluating our relationship? Text image transcription. OP, hey, are you home yet? New text, can we talk? BF, what? OP? I'm still kinda off-put by the prayer. Was that a joke? New text, dead ass, couldn't tell. BF, what's funny about it? OOP, it was a prayer to fucking Donald Trump. New text, like why? BF, vdim. OOP, my parents were confused as hell. Isn't that like false idol or blasphemous, if anything? BF, if he's ordained by God himself, I don't see the issue. New text, he literally saved him. OP, but why are we doing this now? BF, you brought this up. OP, no, I mean, why did we start the prayer thing literally today? BF, I didn't? I thought we talked about this. OP, what? We haven't talked about this at all. New text, you had to have known I'd think it's weird. BF, I said he was saved by God during the assassination, that it was proof. He was chosen, so I speak to him. New text, I don't see what the issue with this is. OOP, you know we disagree politically, so why would you pray to the man in front of my whole family and I? New text, this just seems really out of character. Can I call you instead? BF, why are you making this a big deal? New text, everyone can be wrong on stuff. I don't judge you or your family. OOP, it's not about who's wrong or right. Praying to Trump is just straight up insane. BF, you're being childish. OP, bro, new text, straight up answer my call. New text, how are you real? BF, I'll call you after work. Top comments. Fluid Bicycle 8750. Okay. Stranger, dear friend. What I just read was absolutely diabolical. What the hell does he mean he was chosen so I speak to him? Girl, you need to fucking run because this is actually psychotic. I don't care who you worship or if you do at all. But Trump? This is worse than celebrity worship, and I am genuinely flabbergasted by his messages. Leave him. Tekken Zero Psy, this guy is an insult to psychotic people. Hot soup, cold soup. At least the guy in the park screaming at pigeons has some fucking standards, man. Simple_wanderings. I was almost hit by a car when running. God saved me. I must have been sent by God. I should run for president. Pierce's Streets. Ahead. What's your name? I need to know who to properly pray to. Neely Silverleaf. If you stay with him, you're signing on for this. Reginald Dwight. Your political views can be wrong, but I respect you and your family anyway, is absolutely insane. Chucky Joe. Praying to Trump, not praying to God for Trump. Oh, I'd be out. That's a cult. CMAC 13,216. The sex literally cannot be so good that you would honestly put up with that. Not overreacting. Please, for the love of all things, react more. Superlupative. He says, oh my Trump, as he's finishing. Fleek eyebrow. This cannot be real. It has to be satire. Cadota. I wanted to believe it was years ago when my mother told me he was sent by God to save the United States. Turns out her Catholic priest distributed some literature regarding it. It has gotten worse over the years. She views him as infallible. It's unsettling to visit my small Midwestern hometown because the entire place feels like a cult. Edit. Just adding. Yes, I was raised Catholic. Yes, the diocese was involved. The bishop shook my hand when I was confirmed. The town does have a new priest, which is good since they only had one Catholic church, and that priest services 3 churches in the area. However, the damage Father Basil did is done. My goal is to get the literature, if she still has it, and contact the Diocese of Bismarck. Friends of hers also seem affected. Most people in the town do regardless of denomination. Regardless, that church has been influencing my mother's voting choices all my life. They tell you who does and doesn't support abortion, and that's who you should pick, which is how I assume they get around it. That particular priest was also anti-vax. He was sure it was vaccines that killed a few monks that he knew from an abbey he had been at. This was verbatim from his mouth in my parents' kitchen, stopped when a grandparent died. He continually unsettled me, and I viewed him as a heretic myself. SM0 Elbean 000. After the 2016 election, I asked my grandmother why she voted for Trump, and she genuinely told me that God has sent Trump to protect our country from evil outside forces, and went on to list various other nations. When Biden was elected in 2020, she freaked out and told me that God wouldn't have let Biden win unless the end times really were nigh. She told me I wasn't going to live to make it to 30 because the world would literally end before then. Now that Trump due to be back in office, she's extended our end times deadline for another 20 years. Them rem 4N, the best time to break up is today. The second best time is tomorrow. OP's comment, what did he pray? Along the lines of protect America's freedom, shield the children, purify the government, boost our economy. Corny as hell. Update comment, December 28th, 2024, next day. I have no clue how to update a post, but update. Relationship is over. I'm embarrassed from this ordeal, so I just spontaneously did it. It was less than a year, so I'll get over it, but damn. Thanks for the chill and nice comments providing support even though I can't read most comments. Lessons have been learned. Story 2. My wife is addicted to the gym and it's ruining our marriage. My wife is 30 years old and she's always worked out and been in shape, but lately I feel like it's becoming excessive. She used to regularly work out at a gym when she was in college. At some point she stopped going to the gym, I think lately just due to her schedule, and preferred to work out at home or go for runs outside. About 18 months ago, she announced she was going to get back into the habit of going to the gym. She now had a job where she's able to make more time for it. It started off normal, but slowly became more and more frequent. She signed up for classes on the weekend, both days. She started going to the gym every day, then it became the morning before work, and then again later in the evening, every single day. If she's stressed, she goes to the gym. Experience some sort of life crisis. She immediately heads to the gym. We have an argument. Runs to the gym. She's 4 months pregnant right now. I'm kind of surprised we even had time to make a kid. I understand that it's safe for her to work out, especially since she was already in the habit of doing it before she got pregnant, but the intensity is not slowing down. If she misses one of her normal gym sessions, she becomes so irritable, like a junkie not getting her fix. It's just bizarre. Truly a case of too much of a good thing. Of course, she gets upset when I voice that I feel it's becoming an unhealthy obsession and that I miss spending time with her because she's there so much. She has all of these friends and this whole circle of people there that she seems to prefer spending time with over me. Why don't we work out together at the gym? The gym is her time, she says. This isn't a case of me feeling insecure because she's in great physical shape and I'm a fat slob. I work out and am in shape. My job really requires me to stay in shape, so I can't let myself go if I want to. I genuinely feel her gym habits are unhealthy. She's over-exercising, for one. There is such a thing. But worse than that, I feel it's becoming a way for her to escape everything else in her life. She never actually fixed anything that goes wrong in her life. She just runs off to the gym to get some sort of mood boost and then that's it. She also never gets anything else done in a practical sense because how can she when she's at the gym so often? It's to the point where I have to do every chore, and if food is getting made, I'm going to have to do it. I don't expect her to do all of those things, but it should at least be a shared effort. People we know have even commented about it to me. They've said things about how she seems different, how she sure is at the gym a lot, and many of her friends and family barely see her anymore. Some have even suggested she's having an affair with somebody there. Please tell me that this doesn't sound normal to you. She insists this is perfectly normal. Update February 11th, 2024. I posted not very long ago about my wife's addiction to the gym. A compulsion, if you will. She spends most of her free time there. She often goes twice a day, and sometimes even 3 times if we have a fight at night and she needs to run off instead of actually talking to me. She won't let me go to her gym, and she refuses to go to mine. Her gym is her place. My gym is my place. And that's just the way it has to be according to her. I'd love to have her come along with me. I've invited her multiple times. She's about 18 weeks pregnant right now. This is our first baby. She worked out like crazy prior to the pregnancy, and she continues to just as hard now. I truly didn't think she was cheating on me. People suggested it in the last thread, and I laughed. You can tell she's at the gym a lot. She's in great shape. So she's obviously going there. I felt really confident about the cheating issue, and when I posted 9 days ago, I wasn't even considering cheating. I'm embarrassed to admit that after reading a lot of the comments on my last post, I thought maybe I was being overly confident about her fidelity. She usually always has her phone on her, but she left it in the kitchen counter, and as stupid as I felt, I decided to do a quick swipe through her texts. She had a current text conversation going on with a guy. I recognized the name. The same name of a guy from the gym she mentions a lot. She's friends with a lot of people there, went to one of their weddings last fall. I wasn't too terribly concerned until I started reading the texts. Never wanted to know what the guy's dick looked like, but I know now. She was only out of the room for literally about a minute or two, so I had to scroll fast. I was furious. I asked her what the fuck that conversation was about. She started yelling at me for looking at her phone. I told her she's acting so weird, and the gym obsession was really bothering me, so I just decided to look and was ashamed that I did. But I thought I'd find nothing all. She said, "It's nothing. It's nothing." Didn't look like nothing to me. She sure seemed pretty interested in this nothing. I wanted to know if she's been fucking him. For how long? She kept saying no. I left the house because I was so furious, but not before I slammed her phone on the ground and shattered it. She was calling me all sorts of names for breaking her phone. She hit me on the back as hard as she could. I left, went to my brother's house. My brother and sister-in-law were shocked, although my sister-in-law was one of the most vocal ones about my wife's gym obsession being weird and bringing it up to me constantly. I went home. She was in bed crying. She obviously couldn't call me or anyone else for that matter. She was laying it on thick. "I don't know if you'd ever come home. Give me a break." I took her phone to get repaired tonight. She doesn't deserve it, but I still feel like an ass breaking her phone. I still don't know how deep it goes. She won't admit to anything beyond what I saw. Was it sexting bad enough or more? I'm convinced it was a lot more, but she refuses to hand over her phone and is now trying to act like I'm this terrible monster who is abusing her because I broke her phone. Not my proudest moment, but I honestly wanted to body slam her after she punched me. I have never and would never actually touch her like that. Update 2. My wife admitted to an affair February 12, 2024. Not sure if posting something in my profile will be seen by anyone, but I don't feel like making another update in a subreddit. Today my wife asked me to stay home from work so we could talk. She laid in bed all day yesterday trying to get me to feel sorry for her, but I paid absolutely no attention to her and ended up leaving the house to go to my family's Super Bowl party. I wasn't in the mood to go, but I wasn't going to sit at home with her. It really bothered her that I left. She kept texting me things like, "Who just leaves like that?" When something like this is happening, who is that cold and callous that they just leave to go to a party? I stayed home today to talk to her. She was full of tears. She's so sorry. According to her, she really was going to the gym twice a day because she likes going there. That's where her friends are, makes her feel good, it's fun for her. She met this guy there, and he started flirting with her. Everyone likes him. He's one of the most popular guys there. I didn't realize there were popular people at gyms. She admitted that she flirted back, but didn't mean anything by it. She didn't reciprocate very much at first, but he gave her butterflies, and she just found herself flirting back without thinking. She said it felt like when she had a crush on somebody when she was in school when she was younger. They started texting. At first it was just friendly and nothing sexual for several months, but she'd feel giddy every time she got a message from him. She was really attracted to him but told him that she was married, and there could never actually be anything between them. According to her, he kept flirting with her anyway and said, "Sure, we won't cross the line." Until they did cross the line. She said she had tried to resist it for a while, but then one day they kissed. She admitted to enjoying it, but also feeling that it was wrong. She must not have felt that bad because she slept with him for the first time later that night. She described it like falling in love with somebody for the first time. All she could think about what him. Is she in love with him? She doesn't know. Is this baby mine? She thinks so, but there's always a small chance it could be his. He always uses a condom so she doesn't think it's his baby, but they were sleeping together at the time she got pregnant. She loves me. She can't help that there's just this huge spark between the two of them. She doesn't know if she loves him. She doesn't know if the baby is mine. She doesn't know why she did this. She doesn't know what she thinks we should do. The nail in the coffin is when she said, "You would really leave me if it's not your baby, would you?" She had the balls to ask me that. I told her of course I'm leaving her and I wouldn't raise another man's child. She seemed shocked. She said, "Really? With everything we have and all our history, you wouldn't even consider it?" She can't be serious. I told her no, I would never consider it. She agreed to get a DNA test. She tearfully agreed, like I'm supposed to feel sorry for her about it. I don't know who this woman is. She was crying the whole time, but not tears of an ashamed or sorry person. They were tears for herself and meant to try to make me feel bad. Feel bad for what? That her heart is apparently so torn? Relevant comments, additional info. She's ruined my life, but I just feel numb right now. I barely feel anything at the moment. It would have been bad enough for her to have an affair and cheat on me. But she couldn't have stopped when she found out she was pregnant? At least I could have walked away if it wasn't for this pregnancy. Maybe I still can, but I won't know for sure until I get some test results. She's almost positive the baby is mine. I'm stuck dealing with her forever then. My child will grow up with divorced parents. Their mom will be the gym bike. Maybe she'll even take off to live near her family and take my kid with her. Oh, but then she couldn't be near the guy who gives her butterflies and fucks her in gym changing rooms. The thrill, the excitement, how can I even blame her? She's ruined fatherhood for me, whether this is my kid or not. If by some chance this isn't my baby, and I'm able to completely break free, how will I not think of this one day when I start a family? I was so fucking happy to have this baby with her. I was really excited, even though we hadn't planned for it right now. We have names picked out. I've been there for everything, and now she does this to me. Not only me, but this poor kid, regardless of who their father is. OP. She's saying, "I'll never go back to the gym again. I'll never talk to him again." But she can't say whether she's in love with him or not? What kind of idiot does she think I am? TTI survivors. She still thinks there is hope to save your relationship? Jesus Christ. A T. Yeah, I believe she still thinks there's a chance I'll agree to raise another man's child with her. She doesn't take me seriously when I say there's no way I'd do that. She is dependent on me. She probably wouldn't leave me if I knocked somebody else up and wanted her to play mommy. I know that sounds terrible and it's nothing I'd ever do, but I feel like she'd be mad and she'd go screw somebody else to get back at me. But she probably would be too scared to actually leave me. I don't feel the same way about leaving her. I'm sad to leave her. I don't want this to be our reality. I can't even say that I completely hate her yet, but I won't raise another man's child. If she feels so strongly about that guy and he's so wonderful, go get together with him then and leave everyone else alone. She was practically on her knees yesterday saying, "I won't go back to the gym. I won't ever contact him again." I feel like that doesn't really mesh with the fact that she doesn't even know if she's in love with him or not. She obviously still has very strong feelings for him, which are probably coming more from between her legs than her actual heart, but doesn't really matter either way to me. I think despite anything to do with him, she's dependent on me in a way. For stability, maybe. Just out of comfort, maybe. We've been together since she was 20 years old, so I'm just this familiar person, I guess. She has her gym friends out here, but other than that, she has no family or friends out here. She makes pretty good money, but I make more and all of our benefits are through me. Even with her good salary, it would be difficult to survive on her own as a single mom here with all of the daily living expenses, or at least live anywhere near the level she wants to live at. Today is the day she was crying all night about how she's ruined her life. She seemed genuine, like reality is hitting her. But I didn't pay any attention to her at all. I just pretended she wasn't there. I did ask her if she'll get blood drawn for a paternity test. I asked her to please not hurt me further by keeping me in limbo about that for months. She said she doesn't want to. OOP on if he got a lawyer and if he ever met the AP. I'm meeting with a lawyer next week and we'll see what they advise. How can she parade me around when I've never been allowed to go to her gym? I've met two of the people, a slightly older married couple. Yes, I met the AP. Last summer, he called her because he was drunk at a bar and couldn't drive home, so he called her to come get him. I didn't think it was a good idea for her to go pick somebody up late at night, so I went with her. I want her out of the house, but I don't necessarily want her to fly back home to where she's from just yet. If this is my kid and she gives birth out here, I'll be in a much better position. If she leaves and goes home to her parents, she could very well be allowed to stay there, and that would be considered the baby's place of residence. She missed a few days of work, but she has gone to work since all of this happened. She was having a meltdown this morning, and I left for work. She told me had to go in late today, and when she got there, everybody was making her food and tea and stuff. She obviously didn't tell them what really happened. How long the affair was happening. She claims they've been sleeping together since the summer. That's just what she claims, of course. My wife is moving in with her AP. They're in love February 22nd, 2024. My life has been reduced to a trashy daytime talk show. The woman who was once my wife, who I considered a classy woman, has turned into complete trailer trash. Today she announced that she's moving in with her affair partner from the gym. She's pregnant, might be his kid, might be mine. She's too embarrassed to go get blood drawn for a paternity test. She's spent about a week trying to get my attention, to get me to talk to her, to get me to beg her to be mine. I didn't fall for any of it. I've largely been ignoring her, and when we have to speak, I keep it very brief. We've been living together this whole time, but I'm in a different room now and functioning separate from her in all ways. So her pouting and trying to get me to pay attention to her and give her a gold star for not going to the gym for 5 days in a row didn't work. Today she texted me to say she is moving in with him. Somehow I still care about this person. I've already met with a lawyer, though. I can care about her as a human being and possible mother of my child without being married to her. Still, it stung to hear her say she was going to be with him. I told her it wasn't a smart move to leave the house. I've even told her she should probably meet with a lawyer. She doesn't care about anything I have to say. I don't think she needs to move in with anybody. I actually feel bad for her that she can't just be on her own. I asked her if he actually knew she was pregnant and wanted to know what story she's been telling him this whole time. She said he knows and he doesn't care if it's my baby. He loves her and wants to be with her. Bizarre. You can't find anyone else? Somebody who isn't a married pregnant woman? Why would you take that on? Doesn't make sense to me. He's scum, but he's good-looking scum who apparently is gainfully employed and owns his own home. So you can't tell me that my married pregnant wife is your only option here. I just can't imagine being a single guy like that and wanting to put up with this baggage when I could have other options. And if this really is my baby, then what? They'll live with my wife and this weasel 50% of the time. I don't know how my life turned into this mess. And she thinks it's embarrassing to have to go get blood drawn? My wife has agreed to a paternity test February 29th, 2024. My wife moved in with her AP last weekend. She didn't take very much at all. Most of her stuff is still in our house. I still get the feeling she was just waiting for me to beg her to come home, but I didn't reach out to her at all after she left. It was a strange mixture of relief, anger, and sadness. I don't think I ate at all until last night, just never felt hungry. Drank a little too much, but I'm fine. I'm posting this update because I've received a ton of messages from people, and honestly it's emotionally draining to respond to each one and to have to type the same stuff out. I just don't feel like talking about her that much. So this morning she texted me to say her AP wants to get a DNA test done, so she's going to do it. Look at that. Didn't matter when I wanted one. But now that he has requested it, she suddenly thinks it's a great idea. She asked if I wanted to submit a sample because it'll be cheaper to have 2 dads tested as part of one package. I don't even care about the cost at this point. I just want an answer. I don't have to see or interact with them at all. I just have to make my own appointment with the lab to get my cheek swabbed. So this Saturday I'm going to do that, and we should have the results within a week. I'll take what I can get at this point because it's better than her dragging this out for another 20 weeks. So that's it. I'm fine. I'm going to work every day, trying to function. Just feel stuck in limbo. I miss her. Honestly, I hate that she's there with him. It makes me sick. Part of me does want to beg her to come home. It'll be even worse if I find out that it's my baby and she's there with him. Unless he drops her at that news, I won't let myself beg her. I won't play any of those games with her. Relevant comments updates. March 8th, 2024. TTI survivors. Have you gotten the paternity test results? OP. At 11 o'clock this morning, I got the news that I'm the father. I feel incredibly conflicted right now. Jacoby_Bryant 8. Is she asking to come back home? Or is she still planning on staying with the other guy? Regardless, this is a rough situation. I'm sorry for you, bro. OP. We haven't talked. Jacob_Bryant 8. Understandable, but I think that you should try and set up a meeting with her somewhere public to discuss the pregnancy and the future in general with her. Whether or not your marriage is going to end, the kid is still going to be a big part of your lives, so it would be best to see where both of you stand in that regard. Also, I recall you saying earlier that you think that your wife would listen to what her affair partner would say to her, or something similar to that. So now that it's not his kid, I would be concerned about him pressuring her into getting an abortion. So I think you really should talk to your wife about your unborn child and whatnot. OOP. We definitely need to talk, but I got the news in the middle of a work day, so I wasn't in the mood to have a full-blown conversation with her. I think I need to sort of wrap my head around the reality of it all before I say too much to her anyway. And update on my wife's affair and pregnancy, March 15th, 2024. My wife has been having an affair with a guy she met at the gym for at least nearly a year. She's around 22 weeks pregnant right now. She was somewhere around 17 weeks when I discovered she was cheating. She maintained that she was positive I was the father, but then refused to get a paternity test done to ease my mind. We recently had a paternity test done, at the request of her affair partner, and it proves the baby is mine. It's been very mixed emotions for me, very up and down. Originally, I thought I just wanted to be completely done with her and not have any lifelong ties in the form of a full-blown human being we shared. But I was sort of happy or relieved when I got the results. I'd already had it in my mind that I was going to be a father for months before I found out she was cheating. Sometimes I just have moments where I can't believe this is my life, that this is the situation that my kid will be born into, and I hate her for it. She's still living with him. All of her belongings are still here in our house. I refuse to do the work of packing everything up for her. She doesn't seem concerned about taking any of her things, beyond the essentials. After we got the news that I'm the baby's father, she texted me to say she's glad I'm the father and that she knows I'll be a great dad. She was texting me new baby name ideas last night. She's tried calling, but I ignore the calls. I only speak with her via text. This morning she asked if she could come by and get a few things. I told her it was fine, as I've been advised by my lawyer to not prevent her entry from the home, but I told her that he better not be with her. So who shows up with her? The scumbag boyfriend. He walks right on into the house behind her like it's no big deal. She ran upstairs to get the stuff she wanted, and he and I were just left standing there in the living room. He told me it wasn't her fault that he was there. She told him I didn't want come, but he forced his way along. He wanted to talk to me, supposedly, to tell me he understand how I must be feeling. No, you don't know. He told me he knows I probably don't believe him, but he genuinely loves her and knew he probably wasn't the father. He accepts it, and then tried to assure me he won't try to take my place with the baby and hopes we can just get along since we're both going to be in her life now. He promises that she's fine. He's looking after her. I told him that I couldn't for the life of me imagine what he wanted with a pregnant woman who is having another man's child, that I found it weird. Then I told him if he didn't get out of my house, I'd punch him. I went upstairs and she was trying to find somebody things in the bathroom. I got mad, asked her why she brought him along, and told her I find it really strange that he still wants to be with her now that he knows he has nothing to do with this baby, and that I refuse to let him have anything to do with my child. She said he talked her into coming and she's sorry and never meant for any of this to happen, but she's in love with him now. He is supposedly what 30-year-old her is looking for, not me. She's setting up a nursery in his house, and I can set one up at my house, and she has no intention of trying to get full custody or anything like that. She doesn't want to keep me from being involved in my child's life. How generous of her. She went back downstairs, and I followed her, and he was still standing there in the living room, and I just walked up to him and punched him. He stumped back and fall into a table. She yelled, "What the fuck?" and ran over to him. I don't even care at this point. As if he's going to call the cops? He deserved it, and it wouldn't have happened had he just left like I told him to. Several hours later, she texted me to say she was sorry about today. He really meant what he said, and he's actually a good guy, and he cares about her, and he respects me. WTF? He respects me. He was screwing my wife in the gym locker room. I was like, "You can't be serious." She said, "Fine. I'm trying to have a mature conversation about this. I can't help that we fell in love. Believe it or not, I'm not trying to hurt you, and I want everything to be amicable. This guy stole my wife, and he's stealing my kid, too. Sure, I'm the actual father, but now they're setting up a nursery together in his house? I've tried to not feel jealous or sad. I've tried to maintain the thought that he's the trash man who picked up my garbage. Sometimes I feel that way, but the truth is that I loved her, and still love her. I don't want to stay married to her on principle alone, but this is devastating to me. New update. Another installment of the implosion, which is my marriage, April 10th, 2024. My wife is basically 26 weeks pregnant now. There actually hasn't been much drama with her and her AP. I was away for a long weekend last week, and it was nice to just get away from home for a while. Only really annoying thing that's happened is that I told her I'm being in the delivery room, not him. After everything she's done, she owes me that. It's not his baby. He has no right or reason to be there. I will not be the one waiting outside when my kid is being born. She said, yeah, she agreed, and she never planned to have him in there with her. I asked her if she'd told him that, and she said no. I told her to tell him he'll have no part in it. Well, she told him, and apparently he didn't like that, and he started trying to convince her why he should be there. Next thing I know, she's telling me that he really wants to be there, and she's the one giving birth, so she should be able to say who she wants there, and she wants him there. I suppose he'll start making name suggestions soon, and we'll try to overrule names we've had picked out for our future kids for years. We've talked a little bit, and she told me I can have our house and the dog in our divorce. I'm requesting that we sell the house and split the profit. I already that written in the paperwork. I'm not buying her out of our house, a house that I've made all the payments on anyway. I have a much better credit score than her and less debt. I compromised a lot because she liked this house. I'd rather be able to get my own place based just on what I want and with no reminders of her. And there was already no way she was getting the dog. I already had proof that I owned him, though, so she wouldn't really stand a chance of having a court award the dog to her. It's the one thing I told my lawyer I wanted above everything else, not including any custody issues surrounding my actual human child. Honestly, her AP can have her, but he will never ever have my dog. Not to mention my dog is 100 times more loyal than my wife, and some might even say better looking too. So with the idea I won't be living here in this house for much longer after the baby is born, if everything moves quickly, I decided I will still prepare a nursery here anyway in case anyone wants to try to accuse me of not being invested, prepared for fatherhood. I'm trying to look at the positives. It doesn't matter what colors she likes or what themes. I can do whatever I want. Honestly, we've been together for so long and have lived together for most of our adult lives. It's sort of nice not living with somebody, but sort of lonely too. I have friends and family, but it's hard to feel in the mood to go out or hang out with people too often. They always ask me about everything that's going on, and it's just like I'm tired of that being the topic of conversation. I got a promotion at work, which financially would have been better had it happened after the divorce, but I'll take what I can get. I feel like I'm living in this limbo right now, and a lot of what I do is always framed around, how will this affect me in the divorce? Admittedly, I spy on them on social media sometimes. Guess I'm hoping to see he's been in a motorcycle accident or something now that the weather is nicer. Hasn't happened yet, but he's starting a new company, and once that's up and running, I can always get all my friends and family to leave one-star reviews everywhere. Have to find ways to have a little fun. Sorry that I don't respond to a lot of messages or comments. Sometimes I just take big breaks from looking at Reddit since it can be depressing AF. Editing to add something I forgot. She told her family that we've split up and that she's with this other guy now. Her sister reached out to me to say how sorry she was. Her sister is a dumbass, that sort of thing. She told me that my wife was complaining about her AP. The sex is over when he's done, and apparently he's really selfish with sex. He doesn't do extra little things for her that she's used to me doing, like clearing the snow off her car in the morning and heating it up or offering to make her food after a long day. He doesn't speak her love language, and he hangs out with his friends too much. This made me so happy to hear. She's secretly miserable, and I find that absolutely delightful. Story 3. AIO girlfriend, F27, is wanting me, M31, to attend her work's corporate party as a plus, and I don't feel comfortable with it. Original post August 14th, 2024. My M31 girlfriend, F27, of roughly 2.5 years' work, are planning their usual annual company Christmas party, where employees and their partners' spouses, optional but supposedly preferred, are invited to attend for an overnight stay, meal, party, open bar, etc. I've never been to the previous events due to a work commitment last year, and the year prior, we were still quite a new couple. She works for a large nationwide recruitment agency, and each year a different city's office hosts, and those not from that region normally stay in a fancy hotel booked by the company. They are in the process of confirming the total number of guests, and she'd like me to go. As a heads up, we are very open and communicate well, I'd say. She's told me that, prior to us dating, on her first work's Christmas party, after a few drinks, she went to an after-party in one of the guys' hotel rooms and engaged in a threesome with 2 dudes from her office as a bit of a bucket list experience. After thinking about it, Leave said to her I'd rather I give it a miss, but I'm totally happy for her to go on her own. She's told me it's important to her from a career perspective, as it's good for her image, get to meet in person with people she works with from other regions, and can socialize with the senior management, and that nearly everyone's from works partners attend. We have since been arguing all last week, and I have been accused of not supporting her career as I've never attended her previous work events, being immature and shaming her. I really honestly don't think any of this. It was something she'd done prior to meeting me. We do hold differing views on sex, as for me it has always been something special where she views sex as something that's just a bit of fun. This isn't an issue, and has actually been good for us as we've learned a lot from each other. I'm even comfortable with the fact she still works alongside these 2 guys. I know she has had a lot more sexual partners than me, but as she has always viewed casual sex when she was single as a bit of fun, and I know deep down it wasn't meaningful. Accepting a sexual history is one thing. People are entitled to a sex life. I'm cool with that. The past is the past, but this feels different as it feels like the present, and socializing at the same party with my girlfriend and the 2 males that have been intimate with her is a different task. It makes me awkward, uncomfortable. I thought it would be easier to say I'm not attending. Having asked if others at her work knew, she said yes, as one, or both of the guys, did spread rumors afterwards, and also has been office banter and nicknames about it. She said it doesn't bother her. She is confident and the type that would own it. The place gives me finance bro vibes. The thought of shaking hands, making small talk, and share a table for a meal with guys who have had sex with my girlfriend is difficult. For context, we are in a good place, rarely argue, and have recently been talking about marriage, having kids, etc., and really have a great relationship all round and don't want to do anything that would harm her out relationship or career. I posted about my situation on another subreddit, but feel like here might be more helpful for me, AIO. Turns out strangers on the internet are actually very helpful. TLDR, arguing with GF that I don't want to attend a corporate party where she has been intimate with 2 others that will be there. Am I overreacting? Relevant comment. Merrily dreaming. Honestly, I do think this is something you need to work through. Maybe you can avoid going this year, but if she stays with this company at some point, her fiancé or husband's refusal to ever go to a work event is going to impact her reputation. I think it's better for you to just get it over with and see that it's really more something you've built up in your head. Perhaps it would help if you tried not thinking of it as socializing. These kinds of events are essentially mandatory for her, and your behavior or refusal to show up does reflect on her. She is not asking you to be best friends with these men. Just be polite in a professional setting for a short time. OP. Thanks for your response. I do understand not attending prior or future events as a spouse is bad for her reputation, although I feel like the previous were valid reasons. Her being honest about it is appreciated, but I'm just trying to get over the social awkwardness that I have built up in my head. Peanuts and Cheese 2021. She was a consenting partner in that threesome. By being upset or unwilling to go to a place because of the other two partners, you are undermining her choice and agency as a person. What if you wanted her to attend a wedding where your ex was present? It's not the sexual partner, it's the fact it was a threesome, and you are kind of making moral judgments, plus also afraid the two guys will think they have something over on you. Is that correct? OP. Well, yeah, I'd say you're mostly right. However, it's not the act of her choosing to be part of a threesome itself I'm judging. She was single at that time. It's just more difficult because it was a threesome. There are just numerically more ex-sexual partners to be around. That's feel intimidating. I don't know if it's me feeling they something over me that makes me nervous. I can accept her past, and ultimately she's my girlfriend now. It's the attitude those two guys hold that could be a problem, as she's told they spread gossip of her encounter to others in the company and use slut-shaming type nicknames for her when they think she's not around. I'd feel uncomfortable and probably emasculated to hear that said about her whilst I was there. Update October 3rd, 2024, 3 months later. Hi everyone. Since there was a few Update Me comments on the original post and I had a bit of spare time, I thought I could provide an update on the situation I posted about a while back. First of all, I really appreciate all the advice and feedback I received. Both positive and negative, it gave me a lot to think about, and it also the ability to structure some important conversations between my girlfriend and I. To summarize the original post, my girlfriend, F27, and I, M31, have been together for nearly 3 years. She invited me to her company's annual getaway Christmas party this year, which would involve me needing to be socializing with co-workers, including 2 guys she had a threesome with as a ONS before we were dating. I wasn't uncomfortable with her sexual history itself, but I felt awkward about attending the party and being in the same table event with these guys, especially since they still sometimes joke about it and the use of what I considered disrespectful nicknames for her. On top of that, I was worried there was a possibility I could end up being the butt of these jokes too, which made the idea of attending feel even more uncomfortable. I initially declined to go, which led to some tension and an argument between us. One point I just wanted to clarify based on some of the comments and DMs is that I'm not ashamed of her past at all. Before we started dating, I knew due to being part of an overlapping social group she had a sex-positive outlook, and she was open about the fact that she had been with around 50 guys. That was never an issue for me. We may well have different experiences, as I've only been with 3 long-term GFS prior, but it wasn't something that held me back from perusing and starting a relationship with her, and not something that has ever been an issue. What made this situation feel different was that I'd be in a room, possibly sat at the same table for dinner, with people who are still actively referencing that past experience. I've never had to deal with that face-to-face, and the idea of those same people making jokes with me in the room, or even about me, made the situation feel more socially uncomfortable. So update. After some deep conversations and listening to each other's point of view, my girlfriend helped me understand her perspective more clearly. She expressed that being the only person from her office without a partner would make her feel awkward and isolated, and possibly lacking social support during the event. She was also surprised and somewhat upset when I changed my mind about attending, as it raised a small doubt that I was viewing this with the idea of shaming her. We also had a constructive conversation around her views on sex positivity. Her confidence in celebrating that part of her life has helped me have a different perspective. She reassured me that any teasing and nicknames at work don't bother her, so why should it bother me? Any terms like SLUT should not be seen as insults. Instead, something to be proud of, and offer her an ability to own and reclaim a woman's sexuality without shame, especially since men involved in stuff like that are held to a different standard than her. If she can be proud of herself while confidently standing by her choices, then I realized I should wholeheartedly support that as well. Anyway, I've decided to go to the event. I still have some reservations, but I realize it's important to show my support in her work life. I trust her, and if she's comfortable in that environment, I want to be too. At the end of the day, I'm happy of how open and unapologetic she is about her views, and I don't want to let my discomfort, or something as trivial as the possibility of being the target of jokes, get in the way of supporting her fully. We've had some great discussions about careers, sex, relationships, women, and society that have only made our relationship stronger. Thanks again for all the advice. It's been a huge help. TLDR, talking is great, and having sensible conversations can work a lot of things out. Being awkward for an evening isn't worth not supporting and upsetting your partner. Relevant comment. Laximum effort. What kind of assholes would talk about that encounter at work? If you are going to be with her long-term, you will need to be at these types of events. If those two make any comments, the easiest is to act like you didn't hear it. Any more than that, you could quip about how she mentioned how shitty they were in bed, or say how you look forward to sharing this story with their next girlfriend. Whatever you do, you cannot appear like you were fazed by it. Upo. From what I know, the company is very much a finance bro vibes, and these guys come across as bragging douchebags. But just because they view something like this the way they do doesn't mean everyone else should. They should be held to the same standard as her for doing the same thing. New update. Update to December 29th, 2024, 5 months after OG post. Hi all. I previously posted about how I was apprehensive about attending my girlfriend's Christmas party as a +1, as I thought it'd be awkward for me, as she had previously had a threesome with 2 guys from her work, when single at another company event. Now that I'm off work, and the various festivities and hangovers have finally gone, I've had a bit of time to process and write up an update about this work party that I had previously felt apprehensive about. After posting here, could I please state that obviously I appreciated any positive messages and DMs that have helped me, however, could the bombardment of negative DMs about my relationship please stop? Obviously, after talking to my partner, we decided it would be good for us to attend the night as a couple. I've gotten over my own issues and mindset. Any awkwardness is my own doing, and that her own past choices that she is happy with are not something that I as a supportive partner should be holding against her, or something that stops our relationship progressing. Anyway, the venue was pretty fancy, in a nice hotel decked out for Christmas, with decent food, live music, and an open bar, which helped. To be honest, my work nights out are pretty low-key in comparison, and also was good to get a free meal and night away. Meeting her co-workers went about as well as could be. Since my girlfriend works in a company with different teams in different cities, the tables were arranged like this for the meal, so we ended up sitting with her team, including the 2 co-workers I had been worried about. Most people were friendly and welcoming, although I do have to admit the company does have that finance bro vibe I thought it would have. There is a lot of younger people on good salaries with large commission bonuses who I can see are quite competitive. And admittedly, that type of person and environment isn't my scene. I'd find it pretty toxic. But I get that it's not my industry, and that's the way these companies work. After the meal, we then moved on to the free bar for the evening for everyone else to mingle. One of the guys was surprisingly easy to get along with. He was with his partner, and he came across as genuine and didn't try to make anything awkward. He introduced himself politely, and afterwards chatted for 5/10 mins at the bar with me about normal stuff like work and football. Nothing that would be uncomfortable for any of us. Honestly, seemed like a decent guy. The other guy I felt was a different story. He wasn't rude or anything, but there was an energy about him that rubbed me the wrong way. He was there on his own, more happy to chat directly with those he already keeps company with, and had this cocky vibe. At one point he did make a comment which I could have interpreted as a dig, but it was vague and wasn't something I would justify with a reply if it was. The biggest thing for me was that the people who said I shouldn't go were wrong. I had this fear that we could be the target of jokes, or that people would see me as weak for being uncomfortable about the situation. But that didn't happen. Most people either didn't know or didn't care about any past, and if they did, were respectful enough to leave it alone. The advice I got here about showing up for your significant other and focusing on our relationship instead of what others might think turned out to be spot on. The only thing that really mattered was how she and I felt about the night, and she was over the moon that I was there. She told me afterward how much it meant to her not going on her own, and honestly, that made any awkwardness I felt totally worth it. TLDR. The party went well, I'm glad I went, and overall it was a good night and a win for our relationship. Story 4. AITJ for cutting my sill out of my life even if it upsets the family norms. Part 1. May 15th, 2024. Throwaway account. The cast: myself, 25, and my husband Tom, 27, his brother Fern, 30, his sister Margaret, 40, and her husband Corey, 37, their dad and their stepmom. This is going to be super long, so I apologize in advance, but there really is so much to get through. I married into the family about a year ago. They are all a pretty tight-knit bunch, but have been exceedingly welcoming and accepting towards me. It took a while for me to warm up because I'm always hesitant around new people, but I actually have a lot of fun with them, and they have gone out of their way to make me feel like part of the family. I discovered early on that my husband's family has a unique way of handling conflict, and it's in sharp contrast to the way my own family handles disagreements. My family confronts issues head-on, sometimes ending in screaming matches if it gets heated enough, and all of us tend to speak up when something is bothering us or is fundamentally hurtful to someone. Tom's family is the opposite. They rarely address anything in real time, if at all. They typically whisper about it behind each other's backs and usually just sit in tension for extended periods of time. It's been made clear to me that the only person in his family that is directly allowed to address an issue is their dad. Everyone else follows suit. This means if he isn't saying anything, no one else does, period. The issue in all of this? My husband's sister, Margaret, I'll give you a little bit of background. She has 4 kids with her husband, Corey, and they have a really odd dynamic between the two of them. Margaret is the more domineering of the two, often speaking for the both of them, while Corey just sort of sits there and nods along. Margaret is really prone to emotional outbursts over things that simply do not make any sense. There are so many instances of the chaos that Margaret has caused within the family that it would take an eternity to describe them all. I do have some notable ones, though. Repeatedly guilting people if they don't immediately drop everything to watch her 4 kids, screaming at the top of her lungs, causing a huge scene when there was tomatoes on her salad during a birthday party, regular complaining that no one helps her with anything. Her apartment, car, and kids have been almost exclusively funded by the rest of the family without any expectation of being paid back. And trash, talking her entire family publicly on social media on a regular basis. Not once has anyone ever addressed these things with her, and it's continued to escalate over time. The biggest issue right now is the rift between Margaret and the stepmom, and how that is affecting the entire family, myself included. Stepmom married into the family about 4 years ago and is one of the kindest people I have ever met. Point blank, period. Margaret publicly shames her at every family function, and seems to specifically reach for the cruelest things you could say do to someone. Margaret regularly asks stepmom to babysit, but freaks out when stepmom says no to any of her children. Margaret insists that this is toxic and abusive parenting. Stepmom can't have children, and Margaret has told her that she's thankful for this because it was God doing the world a favor. She's told stepmom that she was the reason her cousin K** lulled herself. She refuses to acknowledge her as a matriarchal figure and regularly says things like, "This is my dad's house, not yours. I'm not your daughter. You'd never be fit to be a mom. And IDK, why my dad even married you." Margaret has gone as far as to compare stepmom to their dad's ex-wife, who stabbed him and ended up in prison. Stepmom has reached out multiple times to try and rectify, make peace with the situation, but Margaret escalates every time she does. All of this is so absurd for a woman of her age that I can't stand it. I have kept my mouth shut for years at this point out of respect for the family norms, even through all of this, but last week I decided I'd had enough. Fern called me in tears to tell me that Margaret had ruined a dinner they went to that night. Again. Margaret has regularly used Fern as an emotional punching bag, and him calling me in tears is a regular occurrence at this point. At dinner, Margaret had called him fat and told him she didn't want her kids around him anymore because they would think being fat is okay. For context, Fern has struggled with an eating disorder for most of his life. On the phone call, Fern basically spilled his guts. There's a family vacation to Italy every few years, and apparently stepmom isn't going anymore because of Margaret. Fern also let me know that there has been talk of cutting Margaret out of the family for years, but their dad hasn't even started the conversation of, "This isn't okay yet," so none of them can say anything. Fern had tried to contact the husband, Corey, to see if there was something going on, but Corey refused to talk. I have always been friendly with Corey. He's a nice guy, and if you can get to him without Margaret in the room, he's actually really full of life and fun, so I called him myself. Corey told me that everyone is being so mean to Margaret, and she's trying to break generational cycles. It sounded like he had a script in front of him the whole time and was almost word for word the same nonsense that Margaret says all the time. Margaret is a victim. Everyone else is crazy. No one understands her, etc., etc. After listening to him for a while, I told him I cared about him, but that I was done with Margaret's BS. I blocked their numbers, their social media, and eliminated any other ways they had to contact me. This is a big no-no in this family. You don't confront it. You don't say anything, you just sit there and take it. I contacted Fern and stepmom and told them about my decision and let them know that I wasn't going to show up to anything if Margaret was also going to be there. I told Tom, and we had a whole conversation about it. Everyone is telling me they support me in my decision, but they have all also said some variation of, "I wish I could do that because I am in the same boat." The subsequent backlash from all of this is that although I am maintaining relationships with the rest of the family, Margaret is even worse at functions now. I don't have to see it, but I hear about it all the time and am starting to wonder if I made the wrong decision. I didn't want to make it worse for anyone, but I just couldn't watch it happen anymore without escalating things myself. It really was getting to a point where I felt so stifled that I thought I might hit her out of frustration, which is why I chose to back out after all of this. The family still hasn't said anything to her, and my husband told me that they all have a role to play, but that I also kind of disrespected his dad by saying, "doing this." Am I the jerk? TLDR. My SIL plays the victim a lot, but is actually the aggressor most of the time, and I chose to end all contact, which is upsetting the rest of the family. OOP answered questions in the comments. Did you know how screwed up this family was before you married into it? I did know about it and had serious reservations for a while. The ultimate deciding factor is that outside of Margaret, all of them are truly incredible people that would give you the shirt off their backs without you even having to ask. They have a lot of strengths as individuals and even more as a unit, but for whatever reason Margaret does not seem to see this the same way I do. I married into the family being relatively certain that I could deal with a family of doormats over a family of Margarets. There's always one, you know. Has your husband and his family spent time with your family? My husband has spent considerable time with my family, but they live overseas, Australia, so it hasn't been financially feasible for most of his side of the family to come hang out for extended periods of time. Our dads have met on multiple occasions, but nothing long-term outside of the wedding. What will happen when you and Tom have kids? We do not have kids, and neither does Fern. Only Margaret does. She threatens to keep them from the family all the time. I shut that shit down for myself months ago. I told her, "You don't bring them around me anyway." She didn't speak to me for almost 3 months because it straight up just didn't work on me. The family has put up with this for too long. To my knowledge, it started happening around the time stepmom arrived in the picture. Margaret already had 2 kids at that time, but the other 2 are still young, 4 and 7. I wasn't there though, so I can only go based off of word of mouth. Update 1. AITJ for cutting my SIL out of my life, even if it upsets the family norms. May 17, 2024, 2 days later. Wow, this blew up. I did not expect that. Before I give the most recent update, there are a ton of questions you guys had. I tried to answer you all individually, but here is more context. Tom is the only one in the dynamic that is low contact with Margaret. This happened very shortly after I entered the picture when I put my foot down over an incident that was absolutely ridiculous. Margaret had accused him of trying to kill her youngest after we lent her a carpet cleaner that smelled. I burn sage regularly. She was dead serious about it and did not let up and was like, "Wow, good to know you have no regard for human life." He broke down in tears for almost a week before I had to sit him down and tell him, "This is the most insane take ever. How the fuck is Sage going to kill a kid? You realize how nuts that is, right? Don't let her steamroll you like this." He went LC pretty immediately after that. Fern is a really soft-hearted person. It's been confirmed to me that growing up, Fern got it the worst from their bio mom. It's made him extra susceptible to Margaret's manipulations and guilt trips. They were really close when they were kids, and Fern sometimes feels that without Margaret, his life will be empty. It causes him a lot of distress in both directions. Losing Margaret is a devastating thought to him. Staying around her causes him a lot of pain and generally puts him in a really dark place. He's struggling with it. We still talk regularly and have a very close friendship. Corey is a really soft-spoken guy. Super funny, friendly, and nice generally speaking. He only shifts gears when Margaret is present. The rest of the family has identified this as fear. I only cut him off because of the way Margaret uses him to gather information and spread drama. He deserves better. But I think we can all understand how scary it must be for him to even think about standing up to himself, considering that Margaret regularly threatens to take the kids away from someone over something as small as not pouring her a glass of water once, roughly twice a month. Margaret has yet to actually follow through with this and genuinely only uses it as a form of control because of how effective it has been. It's like her Hail Mary pass. Amiel really is a wonderful lady. She's really patient and understands how important FEL's kids are to him. She is trying her damnedest to not break up a family, and I think she genuinely wishes she could also stay out of it. Margaret has fully aimed everything at her at the moment, and it's put MIL in a really uncomfortable position. She's a pretty tough lady. I think she's just as bewildered as the rest of us, and doesn't know what the fuck to do with the situation because of how absolutely extreme it is. Phil is getting a lot of hate in the comments. While I am not necessarily disagreeing with the statement that he lacks a spine and is allowing it to happen, I also see the pain that this is causing him. While emotions aren't the easiest thing for him, I have to consider how absolutely triggering the whole thing is. I mean, the last time he was around this kind of person, she attempted to kill him. I know him to be an incredibly brave man, even if he doesn't always outwardly express his feelings or his opinions. It's got to be hard to juggle and wrap his head around this. He loves his wife, he loves his daughter. I agree that he should put an end to it and that it's been a long time coming. But I absolutely understand why it would be a huge hurdle for him to confront, both in real time and within himself. I tell him all the time that he's a good dad because he is. He really is. I think in the face of a super domineering woman, after all he and the kids have been through, just really puts him in an emotional pickle. I can absolutely understand that. Biomom is a huge piece of shit. The family really doesn't talk about it much. With what they have told me, I don't blame them. Biomom frequently told the kids that she hated them and wished they were never born. She used them as ammo to get her way with other relatives. She regularly made life a competition between herself and the 3 daughters. There are 2 more that are not in the picture that I have never met, and at times was violent with them. Fern and Biomom got into arguments on a regular basis. Fern attempted suicide several times really early in life because of how abusive the environment was. This was also the birth of his eating disorder issues, because Biomom regularly called him an ugly, useless waste of space. Tom has told me that he tried his best to stay out of the way, but that even he wasn't safe from the chaos. Oh yeah, and she regularly attacked FIL and eventually went to prison for attempted murder. Tom cut contact pretty immediately after that, followed by Margaret and FIL. Fern was the only one who tried to still have a relationship. The entire family has been absolutely NC with the biological mother and the other 2 daughters for over a decade. Now to the update. I spoke to Tom again last night about this whole thing. I mentioned that I posted on Reddit about this, but I told him I wasn't going to show him until things cooled down with the family. He was cool with that. I asked him a few clarifying questions because I'm still super confused about how any of this got to the point that it has. He told me that no one is necessarily waiting on Dad to say something, but that everyone knows that he is the head of the family, so the NC thing wouldn't work unless FIL decided to do it as well. Pretty much either they all have to do it or none of them can without seriously compromising the relationships that do remain. Margaret lords the kids over everyone. Apparently, this is the biggest barrier for the family. Tom says he is virtually indifferent at this point because he only sees the kids at family functions, but for Fern, FIL, and MIL, it's a lot different. Margaret is the only one of the siblings that has children, and she has regularly turned to the three of them for babysitting and financial support. They are all super attached to the kids and are really struggling with finding the lesser of two evils. I told him that I could understand that, but that I was still confused as to why everyone was okay with the automatic response to any barrier or boundary is, "You won't see the kids again." It's not simple for anyone except me, I guess. I'll admit, I'm very fuck them kids in any situation like this. Children are not currency, IMO, so whenever anyone has pulled this on me, I have not hesitated to be like, okay, bye. Tom let me know that he still has plans to talk to his father about this, but that he ultimately feels that he cannot control any of it, so he is doing his best to compromise. He doesn't like Margaret at all. He pretty much wants nothing to do with her or her kids at this point. He also doesn't want to abandon his family over this because he feels like Margaret wins in that situation. He is playing the fence, to be fair, but I can't expect more than that from him. I get it. I also talked to MIL yesterday. She's pretty confused because she comes from a family that confronts things heads-on too. She has tried to talk to Margaret to squash things, but it goes more and more south when she does. I think this puts her between a rock and a hard place. She personally thinks that the only thing she did to offend Margaret is marry Fael. I gotta be honest, I agree, because Amiel is so generous with her money, love, support, and attention that I find it very hard to believe that even a fraction of what Margaret is feeling is valid. MIL is a cool lady, and I have come to regard her as a very good person. Her current stance is, no one is going to get through to her. I am not going to give my husband ultimatums. That's his daughter. It's his choice what he wants to do. For now, I am distancing myself, which is why I am choosing to not go to Italy with them. Myself, Fern and Tom are going over to Millfill's house this Sunday. They were out of town on Mother's Day, so we rescheduled. Originally, Margaret and Corey were part of a group gift that I had fully planned and mapped out to give to Mom. However, very early in the process, they started pulling some lightly shady shit, and I realized that this gift was going to be used to further manipulate the process. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. They have been completely cut out of the plan and are not welcome on Sunday. I feel bad that this means Corey also gets excluded. We all adore him, and the only thing he has done wrong is not challenge his wife on, but due to their proximity and the way Margaret uses him, he also had to be cut out of it. They have not contributed to the gifts because I purposely barred them from doing so. One of them is a very large collage with images of all the children. Margaret and Corey are nowhere on this collage on purpose. I also doubled down as hard as I could, incorporating several other gifts with the kids' names, likenesses, etc., without including Margaret at all. You don't get to treat someone like absolute shit, and then use my thoughtful idea to twist shit and use it against someone in the future. Sorry. If you wanted to be on it so badly, you should grow the fuck up. Maybe it's overkill. Maybe it's mean. All I know is I've had enough, and I am in full support of MIL. Also in full support of fuck around and find out. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, talk shit, get hit, and don't bite the hand that feeds you. MIL also let me know that she sent Margaret a letter in the mail. This is how bad the situation has gotten. MIL continues to try to rectify the situation, but Margaret blocks her at every turn in favor of being mean over shit that really doesn't matter in the bigger scheme of things. I'm pretty sure this double whammy of the gifts and letter will stir up an obscene amount of shit in the very near future. All that anyone would really need is an apology that takes full accountability without pointing fingers, making excuses, or playing the victim. That in itself would be a huge step for Margaret and a sign that she is open to growth. It hasn't happened yet. I doubt it ever will. I'll give more updates as it all unfolds. I anticipate this being a long process. Comments and answers. Margaret is too reliant on her family to follow through with taking the kids away. I genuinely have brought this up a lot to them. It wouldn't make sense for her to cut off her primary babysitters, financiers, and punching bags. She would lose her apartment and her SOM role and have to work like the rest of us. They would revoke the car, and she would have no way to get around. She would be even less financially stable on top of that because she now needs to find childcare and a way to transport her older kids to from school. I have stressed these points until I was blue in the face. She is not going to cut anyone off. It is in Margaret's best interest to keep towing everyone along. She does nothing but benefit from the chaos she manufactures and causes. This has fallen on deaf ears, or when it is received, it's not received well. I understand that it might be a cold thing to say to them, but it's the honest truth and reality of the situation. Denial is a river in Egypt. Will the family consider therapy? I'm in therapy, as is Tom. Fern is on and off, and supposedly Margaret is in therapy for herself, a couples therapist for her and Corey, and has a life coach. Not sure what to do with that info. Someone should tell Margaret she's acting like her mother. This is the ultimate kicker. Fern, Tom, and FIL all talk about how Margaret is essentially their bio-mom all over again and how she triggers the shit out of everyone when she's around. I have my own checkered background in this regard and have to admit that even I get triggered by her antics sometimes. Corey knows that this is a topic of conversation and that it happens often. On our last phone call, I brought it up again. Corey's response was, "Margaret gets triggered by everyone saying she's triggering them." That sounds like a wildly convenient way to avoid all accountability. I translated it as, "I'm doing really mean things and making my family feel isolated, scared, and hurt. But I'm still the victim because I can't believe they feel that way, so it's actually their fault." I've brought this up to the family since they all fucking talk about it all the time. Nothing. Nada. Zilch. It's been years of talk of, we should really do something, never mind let's stay out of it. This is really out of control. She's gonna do what she wants, so why bother, etc., etc. The roller coaster has given me the strangest form of whiplash, I swear. What's the story on the other sisters? The remaining family cut them off. I don't have all the details, but I know it was first one, then a few years later the other. All I know is that they were too much like their mom for anyone to handle. The shoe fucking fits. There's been some alluding to drug use and theft, but I haven't heard the whole story or had concrete information told to me. They really don't like to talk about it. Update 2. ATJ for cutting my sill out of my life even if it upsets the family norms? May 21st, 2024, 4 days later. So as y'all know, myself, Fern and Tom had planned some Mother's Day gifts for Mile. I gotta admit, I was worried that Margaret would show up and ruin the whole thing, but it was actually a surprisingly good day. Mostly because she wasn't there, which was the obvious elephant in the room the whole time. Tom worked the grill for a while, and we had Emil open the gifts I had planned. It was a small pirate chest filled with letters from myself, Fern and Tom telling her how wonderful of a mother she was. I had aged them and weathered them to look waterlogged, and like they'd been around for a long time. I made her a boondoggle that said, #1 Mom, that had our names dangling from it. She opened the collage. The whole thing left her in happy tears, which was nice but also sad at the same time. She said, "OP, you're such a shit for making me cry," then gave me a big hug. Mill started to talk about it all. It's been really rough, and I've been having a really hard time. But it was cut off by the men fussing over the grill. I made the rest of lunch, and we had a really, really good time for the most part. I clocked FEL's behavior in Margaret's absence. He wandered off into the yard and stood by himself for extended periods of time, staring at the ground in silence. I registered it as pain. I'm not gonna lie, it was palpable. How much easier and fun and quiet the afternoon was with Margaret being intentionally excluded. I could tell that MIL really needed to talk about what was going on, especially since she was being absolutely flooded with love, in stark contrast to what she's been receiving from Margaret. I approached her towards the end of the evening. She revealed to me what she had put in the letter. Essentially, it reads something like this: Dear Margaret, I am sorry that we are having such a hard time seeing eye to eye. I have had my conflicts with Fern and Tom in the past that we have been able to resolve. Since you do not wish to speak to me directly, I am hoping that we can communicate this way to see each other more clearly. I think you're upset with me because I married your dad. But I'm not sure because you will not tell me what is wrong. I want to make peace with you, but I cannot do that with you so blatantly disrespecting me. I feel like I deserve an apology. I feel used by you, especially since I signed your lease for you when you asked right before this happened. Please write me back so we can resolve this. I love you. Apparently, Emil had FEL read it before she sent it. This looks like a last-ditch effort to rectify the tension, but I'm not sure what the outcome will be because we all know that Margaret is going to freak the fuck out the second she reads it. Margaret can't handle any blame and has no sense of accountability. We can all see it coming, so definitely expect an update on that. On the ride home, I absolutely fell apart. It made me so sad that she has had to go to these lengths to remedy a situation that she didn't cause in the first place. I was also very, very angry at Phil and basically the whole family for letting this go on for as long as it has. I ended up confronting Tom about this again. I told him that there are 600 strangers on Reddit calling him and his whole family spineless, and that I have found myself defending them because I know otherwise, but that in this situation, those 600 strangers are absolutely right. I said that I know his dad is human, but that they are all a bunch of cowards for the fend for yourself, just let it go attitude they have when it comes to each of them being so wildly abused and disrespected as a family. Fern deserves better than to have a sister that has told me that the reason Fern got SA'd as a kid is because he put himself out there like that. Excuse me? Corey deserves better than a wife who threatens to call the cops on him for not making her dinner, huh? Tom deserves a better sister than one who has called me to tell me he's a creep, and I bet he's done things to little girls before. No idea where that one came from. Emil deserves better than someone who asks her for money and favors only to turn around and rip her to shreds. The entitlement. And Phil deserves better than to have such little self-esteem that he'd rather watch his family disintegrate rather than cut out the cancer. Yeah, I was heated. Margaret makes shit up, takes things out of context, and regularly demonstrates that she genuinely feels the world is out to get her and that everyone else is the problem. I did not let up. Tom listened very patiently. We exchanged a lot of words, and the conversation took over an hour. The end result being, my dad is nearing approachable about this subject. Today showed him the kind of life we can have without her. You definitely launched a psychological bomb at him with how well you planned the day, and how much you showed MIL that she's worth something. He's struggling, but I promise that I'll talk to him about it soon. We talk 3 times a week. He knows it's coming. The last statement I made was, I am not an on-the-fence person. I'm the only one who has outright picked a side, and it's not Margaret's because I refuse to enable this insanity anymore. It's wrong, and you guys are wrong for coddling a grown woman's hurt ego knowing that it's harming literally everyone else in the family. Pick a side and be done with it. I refuse to let Mill go this alone. We will see how much longer the circus goes on. I anticipate the events that happen this weekend leading to the biggest blow-up that Margaret has had yet. The shady online posts have already started, per Tom, who has found it amusing and low of her. It's about to get a lot crazier when this letter hits, and even worse when she eventually visits FIL and sees a giant collage with all the kids except for her. There's so many of you that have said that you are emotionally invested in my story. I'll continue to update so we all get the closure we need. Thanks for all the support and trash talking. I've gotten quite a few LOLs out of the comments. Stay tuned, I guess. Part 2, June 17th, 2024, 22 days later. It's been a while, and I know that so many of you have been waiting on updates for this situation. There finally is something to report to you hungry Reddit readers. Heads up, there has been no resolution yet. but I can feel it coming fast and soon, hopefully. Last we left off was the Mother's Day incident. Since then, there has been a relative amount of dead air between everyone. Margaret is still posting bullshit on the internet, Fern is still turtling the situation, Tom has been pretty quiet, and Afiel is still avoiding movement on the whole thing. However, Emil has finally put her foot down. Recently, there was some sort of impromptu excursion that Fil went on to visit some old family friends in another state. Fil grew up with them, I guess, and they haven't seen each other in a while, so he took Mil out there to visit. Fil got a hotel while they were staying there. Apparently, about halfway through the trip, Margaret and Corey showed up. I'm not sure who initiated it, but the visits were stacked intentionally by one party or the other. There was about 2 days of overlap, with the in-laws arriving first, then Margaret/Corey/the 4 kids afterwards. Both parties were aware of the other. I have strong suspicions that this is why Fil chose to stay at a hotel instead of with the friend in the first place. Anyway, things were wonderful when just the in-laws were there, but once Margaret's tribe showed up, it went on a spiral pretty quickly. Emil was telling me that it immediately started with the passive-aggressive comments. Nothing new there for anyone, so she just ignored it mostly. Emil made it a point to treat Margaret/Corey/the kids like she was meeting them for the first time, polite, respectful, and reserved. The response to this was Margaret intentionally, deliberately, and obviously interfering any time one of her children approached Mil. Mil was unable to get a hug, a word of conversation, or virtually any time with the kids because Margaret kept redirecting them to other people. Pretty scummy, but it didn't stop there. There was some sort of dinner planned on the second overlap day. Emil and Fil had gone out to explore the state that morning, and Mil decided to stay behind at the hotel afterwards to catch a quick nap. Fil went to the friend's house without her. Margaret and Corey were at the family friend's house when this was happening, and I guess Mil taking a nap was a big-ass problem for Margaret. Margaret was starving and hadn't eaten all day, and apparently this was Mil's fault. Mil always does this, she has no respect. It went on from there, and she quickly started trying to campaign with the family friend, absolutely dragging Mil through the mud and talking about how Mil always has to have her way. Apparently the family friend did not take kindly to this and nipped it pretty quickly, which entirely soured the mood for dinner by the time Mil arrived. There was a lot of tension and more passive-aggressive comments over the evening. Mil wasn't aware of anything but the weird vibes over dinner, and Fil finally told her the entire story of Margaret's antics on the way back to the hotel room. So now that everyone is caught up, the most recent development happened when the whole family got together yesterday, sans Margaret and Corey, who are still out of state. Mil and I were able to catch up, and I got the whole story. Apparently this overlap in the trip was going to be the determining factor for Mil. If things were civil and respectful, she would go to Italy with the family. If not, she was going to stay behind. Well, not only is she staying behind, but she has finally had enough of Margaret all around. Mil was not angry or aggressive about it, but she gave Fil no room for conversation once she made the decision she made. Mil is definitely not going to pay for Margaret's car anymore. Mil also refuses to be a co-signer on Margaret's lease again. I guess it's coming up soon. The timeline is fuzzy on that one for me. And the big whammy Mil does not want Margaret, Corey, or the kids at the house anymore, period. She no longer cares that this means she won't be babysitting the kids anymore. In Mil's words, she knows I can't have kids and she brings it up all the time. So it should come as no surprise to her that I have no problem not seeing them because I won't know what I'm missing. I don't have kids, remember? She's thankful for that, remember? So take them. It doesn't mean anything to me anymore because it's not like she lets me really see them anyway. I'm not sure how this impacts Fil, but neither of us really care at this point. Solidarity within the Margaret sucks we've had enough camp. During the conversation, I made it a point to tell her that I was proud of her. Mil has really been caught in the crosshairs for a long time, and it was awesome to hear that she has stopped waiting for Fil to make decisions about this. Mil told me quite plainly, "I've decided that I don't like Margaret. She's just a mean person, and maybe it's cold. But she can take the kids with her at this point. I'll survive without them. It hurts, but it's not like I'm gonna die if she suddenly disappears from my life. Hell yeah. Go Mill. I told her that Tom also can't stand her, and that's why we arrive and leave early from family functions. He doesn't want to be around her at all if he can help it. That made her smile. I'm not sure how relevant this is, but it was something I noticed over the course of the conversation between myself and MIL. Fern has been firmly, "I'm staying out of it" these days. However, he milled around the conversation long enough for me to suspect he was listening in. He stood near us, not saying anything, and busying himself with a 5-minute task that, apparently, turned into a 20-minute task. I'm not sure what this is about. I don't think he is reporting to Margaret or anything. He wouldn't ruin his own day like that. I think he genuinely wanted to know what was going on, but just really didn't participate in the convo. I'm seriously hoping that Fern is the next to put a foot down with Margaret. At that point, the only person left on the fence would be FL. Fern still calls me about Margaret sometimes, but he's much more elusive and sheepish than he used to be. It's almost like he's unsure of what to do other than just let it play out. As much as Fern loves Margaret, he's about at the end of his rope as well, and I think, ultimately, he's just wrestling with the feelings right now. Anyway, MIL and I made plans to hang out while the family is in Italy. We have a spa day planned, a trip to a tea house, horseback riding, all kinds of cool stuff. We also laughed about how the whole family is going to spend an entire week in Italy trapped with Margaret, while we get to have a vacation fully away from all the drama. It made me happy to see that MIL did not give in to the pressure that she was under to go for the sake of her husband. It really did. Also, to see the excitement on her face while we were planning our week. God, what a priceless, wonderful moment to savor. She drew her line, and I couldn't be prouder. The rest of the family, however, is still a go for Italy. This was honestly infuriating to me. How many more chances does this person get? I had previously stated that I believe FIL to be a good father. And he is. But he is also a huge coward. I talked to Tom about this yesterday again. My poor husband gets an earful about this every time we come home from a family event. I still genuinely do not understand why he would choose to continue to allow a bomb in his house with the justification that he doesn't know how to defuse it. Homie, just throw the bomb out of your house, WTF. Everyone is getting hit with shrapnel and it's nuts. I again iterated to Tom that I don't understand why the problem is still allowed to go on this amazing vacation, despite being an entitled, malicious brat. But Mill and I have to stay home because we have no desire to deal with her nonsense. Italy is amazing and we always have a good time. Fern and Tom have both told me, separately, that their plans are to go do something else away from her when she starts acting up. I can't imagine how that is supposed to be relaxing. I'm not going to spend a crap ton of money to go on a vacation just to sign up for it being ruined, or to have to adjust my plans around someone who can't chill out for more than 30 seconds at a time. We had a long conversation where I again brought up that it would be in Margaret's best interest to stop her bullshit if there was serious threat to her current lifestyle. Tom told me that it is unlikely that anything the family says or does would change her behavior or make her come to reality. I guess they've been here before with Margaret in their younger years. Tom told me this whole story about how Margaret was confronted with something, not sure what, by the family, and was told to shape up or ship out. She left home, shacked up with a bunch of random people for a place to live, and bounced around couches for a while and refused to come home. I guess all she had to do in that instance was apologize, but she was so hell-bent on the idea that everyone was out to get her that she chose virtual homelessness instead. Tom told me that Corey was the one who got Margaret off of random couches. This whole story threw me for a whirlwind. Tom said, "You don't know Margaret. She will put herself on death's doorstep before she admits that she's wrong, or that she screwed up. It's easier for her to play the victim, spin some bullshit, and lay down the sympathy card than it is for her to deflate her ego." My response to that was, "Tell me again why she's still invited to Italy?" The conversation went virtually nowhere after that. Basically the same thing all over again. Dad has to do it. It's a tough situation. You don't understand because you aren't family. I'm just going to do my own thing. Blah, blah, blah. The situation is maddening still. However, I have a feeling that Margaret is going to pop off during the vacation. Without me or Emiel there, she can do her passive-aggressive shit-talking thing pretty freely. I'm sure that it's going to be very, very hard for the rest of the family to ignore it for a week straight without reprieve. I told Tom that if he had any sense, he would use it as an opportunity to push his father's feet to finally move. Although I have faith in my husband doing the right and brave thing, I also know that the dynamic is working against him in this case. We will see what happens. The vacation is set to take place in a little under 2 months. I'm not sure if I will have another update for you guys until then, but if I do, you can definitely expect it to be on here. Tom promised to keep me updated while in Italy, so Emiel and I know what to expect when everyone gets back. I really do have a feeling that this Italy trip is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back if it goes sour. Despite all the posturing, I'm certain that everyone going knows that when it comes to Margaret, it's an inevitability that chaos will ensue. Especially because Margaret, her 4 kids, Corey and Fern, all are staying in a cheap hotel while the entire rest of the family rented a townhouse for the week. It's going to be funny sitting on the sidelines with Emiel, away from all of that. However, I know that the group is going to come back absolutely depleted. Fingers crossed that Italy is the thing that finally causes everyone to actually put an end to this shit show. Have Margaret and the biomother been evaluated for mental illness? Tom has told me that he thinks his biomom might have struggled with bipolar disorder, but that is unconfirmed. To my knowledge, Margaret is currently without any formally diagnosed mental illnesses. OP, why aren't you giving your husband pushback for planning to go on this vacation? Oh, trust me, I put Tom on the spot all the time for this. If you dislike her so much, why continue to associate? The kids, my dad, it's difficult. Like, dude, no it's not. You see the kids at family functions, that's it. Your dad is dragging ass. Why are we supporting idle behavior in the face of this? The whole bunch seems in freeze mode. It's frustrating. But the only thing I can do is what I have been doing. Final update. AITJ for cutting my SEL out of my life even if it upsets the family norms. December 3rd, 2024, 6 months later. It's really hard for me to believe that 6 months went by since this fiasco. I'm so sorry for making you all wait for so long. There has been a lot going on, as you will soon see, and I have not had time to update anyone on this. I also thought it would be a good idea for things to settle down first. A lot of you might be disappointed, but here is what happened. Italy did not go smoothly for almost anyone. Who saw that one coming? Don't get me wrong, they had a fun time, but the ever-constant chaos that seems to follow the family everywhere was right along with them. Shortest version possible, per Fern, who is the only one I am still in contact with. Margaret, Corey, and Fern all shared a hotel room away from the rest of the family. Fern was having a bit of a hard time being around Margaret, who raged basically the whole time, so he offered to switch spots with the family friend that went with them. Margaret turned this into a "whose side are you on" kind of scenario, and spent the rest of the trip talking shit and doing the histrionic thing that she likes to do. Her tribe alternated between engaging with the family in short bursts and retreating into their own little hole whenever things didn't go Margaret's way. Surprisingly, this was the least stressful thing that happened to the family. As it turns out, it was actually Tom who ruined it for everyone. As Fern tells it, he was shithoused almost the whole time and started arguments with almost everyone, including Fern himself, who Tom brought to tears. FIL had to intervene on multiple occasions because Tom was getting very out of hand and basically causing problems for damn near the whole family. Everything from kicking over trash cans on the street, to verbally attacking Fern, to antagonizing things with Margaret, to walking off by himself and screaming at nothing. A lot of "I ruin everything I touch and get the F***CK away from me" type of things. Apparently, he also had a full mental breakdown over me separating from him, but he continued to aggressively take it out on virtually everyone that was out there in Italy with him. At the tail end of the trip, he fully cried and broke down and spoke to Fern and told him everything that was happening at home. Editor's note: no, we did not miss an update. This is the first time the separation was mentioned. Right before they all left, I spent a brief period of time with Miel, We got brunch and talked for a lot of hours. It was pleasant, but that conversation helped me firmly make up my mind. I knew it was time to consider separating from my husband, and that it might be the last time I was going to see her. We cried about it, and the more we both talked, the more it seemed like staying was a bad idea for me. She fully supported my decision and promised to keep in touch. Originally, the decision was around a trial separation. I had enough of the whole thing and just needed my space away from the circus for a while. But I still loved him, so divorce was not yet firmly on the table. I realized that this is the dynamic that I will potentially be raising my own children in. The dysfunction was insanity, and looking back on it, I would be lying to myself if I said that Tom and Margaret were totally different people. Tom himself would rage out over seemingly minute things, or shut down and sulk when things didn't go his way too. The lack of communication, the outbursts, the complete shit show was getting to me. I know that the family has a lot of trauma, as a unit, I mean clearly, but at the end of the day I have my own peace to prioritize, so I felt that moving out would be a solid solution. Tom and I had talked about this shortly before everyone left for Italy. We were firmly on the same page about it, and everything seemed amicable. The agreement was for us both to enjoy our time apart, then to come together after Italy to really work on our marriage. To my knowledge at this time, everything in Italy was going smoothly. Tom gave no indication whatsoever that he was struggling or that there was chaos in the area. I assumed, of course, because of Margaret. But to be completely frank, there was no sign over the phone that there was anything wrong. We did not talk about the separation, so I was under the impression we were still on the same page. So while Tom was raging in Italy, I packed my stuff and moved to my own place, exactly as we had discussed. Unfortunately, this turned out to be a wrong move in Tom's book. The whole thing went to hell, pretty much the second he got back to the house. The way he behaved, it was like looking Margaret in the face, but times 10. So angry, so irrational, so intensely cruel and seeping with hatred. It didn't go according to plan for him, and I think he genuinely didn't take me seriously when I said I needed a break. As it turns out, I was serious as a heart attack, and he really didn't like that. During this time is when Fern told me everything that happened. He gave me a blow-by-blow of the entire Italy trip, including his last conversation with Tom. 100% of the information I have has come directly from Fern, who is by a landslide the sanest of the blood relatives. Naturally, during the fiasco of me leaving, I confronted Tom about this, specifically the last conversation they had. I asked him why he was being so hostile when this was a discussed agreement that we came to an amicable decision on. I pointedly asked him how he can come home and behave this way towards me when he was upset with me leaving in the first place. In my mind, it would have made more sense to actually communicate our feelings instead of, quite frankly, raging out and being a dickhead. Tom was very defensive and essentially cussed me out. "You don't know anything." "Oh, because you were there, right? Get out of my face. Call the cops if you're so pressed about it." It was quite nasty, actually. I won't say it wasn't predictable, but I certainly didn't see it going as far as it went. So I made the next decision, which is what half of you on Reddit proposed to me on the very first post about this situation, way back when. After Tom made it clear that he viewed me as an enemy for standing up for myself, I knew divorce was the best option. I have not seen him, nor been in contact with him since July, which is the last day I had any possessions in the house. I have since gotten the hell out of there, and I am currently on NC with the entire family, with the exception of Fern, who I will always love and adore. I am flying back home to Australia this week to see some relatives over the holidays, and I couldn't be happier with my decision to leave my soon-to-be ex-husband behind. My life has been so quiet since I left. I'll admit, sometimes I do miss the drama. It could be entertaining at times, but mostly I'm just glad that I don't have to conform to someone else's whack idea that filtering your boundaries or being a doormat is the best option for conflict solving and resolution. To my knowledge, no one has talked to Margaret about her behavior, and Tom has continued to behave the same way he did in Italy. Makes sense. and I'm thankful for all the advice I received on here. Rereading the comments, I laugh a lot more at them. You guys saw things that I couldn't, and I think if I hadn't come on here I would still be in a chaotic marriage and living in a circus tent. I wish that family the best. But unless they all collectively start going to intensive therapy, I doubt it will ever change. Nuts. Crazy. Insane. No thank you. Stay blessed. But do it way the hell over there, away from me. Thank you all for being so patient. Maybe I was the jerk for calling out the nonsense in real time, but I certainly am not the jerk for leaving before all my hair fell out. Much love to you all, hungry Reddit readers. Comments and answers. At the first post, was only married into the family a year. Further comments refer to going on the annually Italy holiday multiple times, so was with him years before marriage yet still married into it. To elaborate, Tom and I were friends prior to our marriage. I had met them several times throughout the years, but in very short, casual bursts. As we started dating, I saw more and more of the dynamic, which continued to get worse over time. At the time of our marriage, I still considered it to be odd, but not entirely problematic. Story 5. Really new GF 27F invited me, 29M, to go to Christmas. What are your thoughts? Original post, December 23rd, 2024. So I, 29M, am an oops baby, something that my family has constantly reminded me of since I was little because it's funny. My brother, 44, sister, 42, sister, 39, were all planned by our parents. I was the result of a drunken fun night on New Year's Eve, according to my dad. I've never been close to my siblings due to the large age gap. My parents, while never mean, but never went out of their way to show me the same love that my siblings get. At least that is how it's always felt. For instance, when I was younger, I was in choir. I used to love to sing, but no one in the family ever came to see me sing. I was told, "We are busy," or "We have other plans," so I gave up singing. But I remember them going to my other siblings' dance things, so I gave up on doing anything other than working on my computer and playing with my friends. I stuck to just getting good with computers, and in doing so, ended up in a good job where I've been working for almost 10 years now. Started at the bottom of IT, and now have worked my way up to being a manager for about 15 people. However, being in IT means I have to occasionally miss out on family events as well as some holidays, because where I work it's 24/7 split into 12-hour shifts. Due to this, over the years I've been accidentally forgotten to be invited because we figured you were working without actually asking me. This has been a recurring issue with my family, forgetting to ask me to join them or making excuses as to why I wasn't invited. However, one thing I could always rely on was being able to show up on Christmas Eve. That's when we celebrate Christmas, and still feel like I belonged, even if it was later in the evening. Most of the love I felt came from my nieces, who always think of me as the cool uncle and are always happy to see me. Happened to stop over at my folks yesterday, and while there I saw my nieces. Folks tend to watch them on the weekends. That's a whole different story. But my nieces started asking if I was excited for Christmas as we get to hang out in a cabin this year. I looked confused and asked my mom what they were talking about, and she looked obviously embarrassed and said everyone made plans back in June to celebrate in a rental cabin in Vermont for Christmas. LOL, I kid you not. She looked at me and said, "We all figured you had to work again and couldn't get the time off. So everyone figured you wouldn't mind missing one Christmas." Had they said something, could asterisk have taken the time off? To say I was and am heartbroken is an understatement. Like I get I'm an oops baby, and not really ever thought of much, if ever. But to just be left alone for the Christmas on purpose, I mean, how does a family do that to someone? I just turned around, hugged my nieces goodbye and left. Didn't even say goodbye to my mom. I pride myself on being a strong individual, especially on how my family has always treated me. But not gonna lie, I actually cried on the way home. Never in my life have I felt so rejected, especially by people who are supposed to love me. I couldn't even ask her when they planned on telling me or if they planned on telling me. What would happen if I showed up after work and no one was there? I just left. I probably should have, but I was hurting too much to really care at the moment. Now here's my dilemma. I have a new girlfriend, Zoe 27F, And by new, I mean we've only been going out and seeing each other since just after Thanksgiving. I sent her a text when I got home telling her what happened as I had to talk to someone. She kinda knows about my family being in such a new relationship. I didn't want to unload all my baggage on her, but she does know that me and my family don't have a standard type relationship. Anyway, she has invited me to go with her to celebrate Christmas with her family. I haven't given her an answer yet. In previous relationships, we were together months before the invite to Christmas ever came up. However, this is the first relationship where it's only been a few weeks. So asking people of Reddit for their advice. Would going with Zoe to her family's be a good idea? Being that this is so new, is there a potential downside? Would it be better to be gracious and thank her for the invite but decline? Or accept the invite and go? BTW, I do have to work Christmas Eve again this year, but not Christmas Day, so that's a plus, I guess. LOL. I've rambled enough. Sorry this thing got a little too long. TLDR. My family purposely failed to invite me to join them for Christmas in Vermont, and I just found out. New GF invited me to join her family, but not sure if I should go as it's only been a few weeks we've been together. To go or not to go is the question. Relevant comment? Commenter 1. Your family is full of terrible people and your parents should be incredibly ashamed of themselves. What does the invitation from your girlfriend entail? Is this a multi-day stay with her family? Is it coming with her for half a day to her parents' house? What are we talking? OP, yeah, my feelings about my family are mixed right now, 'cause you aren't wrong. But as far as my GF, she said it would be from like 2 p.m. to 7 p.m.-ish. So like half a day, and they live just outside the city where we both live, so wouldn't be a far drive. I guess I don't want to seem like a pity case, even though I kinda am. I really like Zoe, she's smart and funny, and we both have the same interests. I just don't want to ruin a potentially good thing with my family drama. Commenter 2. The way your family has been treating you since forever most probably skewed your sense of normalcy. It's not uncommon to invite non-romantic friends that are alone for Christmas. But you're more than that. Go and don't feel like a pity case. Bring something for the hosts and you'll be loved. If people ask you why you aren't with your family, keep it light and vague. Even it's complicated, and if you don't mind, I prefer not to get into it right now. Let's focus on this joyful evening instead is more than enough. OP, thanks for this advice. I was trying to think of what I would say if they ask. Your comment is a really good idea. Commenter 3. I would go and just try to enjoy yourself. Beats sitting at home. Update. December 29th, 2024. 6 days later. First, thanks for those that commented on my first post. Wasn't really sure if I should go or not, but it was the best decision I ever made. When I told my GF that I would love to go with her, she was really happy. I did what others suggested and bought a really nice bottle of wine for her family and a few gifts for my GF. I expected a bit of awkwardness when we arrived, but none of that happened. When we arrived and I met her family, I was treated just like I belonged there. I had a great time. We had some really great food and played some games. And overall, it was a great experience and much different than any Christmas I ever had with my family. Speaking of which, Mom called me while I was at my GF's family. I don't think they were happy about it by the tone of her voice, LOL. When they called, we were in the middle of playing Pictionary, and everyone was having a good time. She asked where I was, and I told her. I wished her a Merry Christmas and hung up the phone and then turned it off. I wasn't going to let them ruin a good time. When it was time to go, everyone thanked me for coming and said they hoped I had a good time. I don't think I could wipe the smile off my face even if I wanted to. It was such a nice and loving group of people. I know this relationship is still super new, but the amount of love I receive from my GF and family really makes me hope that this works out. I've never felt in my whole life what I felt on Christmas. As someone posted on my first post, it felt like a Hallmark movie of sorts. I know it's just all the new feelings, but if anything I've learned, I deserve more than what little my family gives me. Thanks again, everyone, for talking me into going. Best decision ever. Relevant. Comment? Commenter 1. Sounds like you had a great time. I am glad you went. It also sounds like you may need to confront your parents and flatly tell them what they're doing isn't right and find out why. I am astonished as an oops baby you were so neglected. It feels as though they aren't confronting some issue which in turn puts you, an innocent, unwilling bystander, in the mix. Like not mention anything about Christmas for months? I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out that you are an affair child because they seem to always be the neglected ones. Good luck with the new relationship. Sounds like you have a keeper. Keep well, and update us from time to time. Yours is a story we want to cheer on, and jeer your family because they suck. OOP. I was content on just reading and liking the comments here, but felt the need to respond to yours. I think the reason I was so neglected was because I didn't fit their plan of a perfect family. They had a plan for my brother and sisters, and I wasn't, and in doing so, ruining their picture-perfect family they envisioned. I've had a couple of days to think about it, and the more I do, the more I realize how narcissistic they are. Guess I never wanted to see it that way, but now that I do, I can't see it any other way. Plan on going LC for now. Need to figure out just what part, if any, of my life needs to be involved with them. Thanks for the comment and kind words. Commenter 2. I'm glad you went and I'm glad you turned off your phone. Don't let the people who have basically ignored you all your life bring you down. Commenter 3. This made me tear up. I'm so happy you went and had a great time. Meeting them so early and seeing how they are with you is reflective of Zoe as a person too, and am so glad she rose to the occasion. Your family has shown you who they are. Believe them. Start refilling your cup with good energy this year. Commenter 4. Amazing of your GF's family. This is truly what family and holidays are about. If your family tries to give you a hard time about this, I can picture them flipping this on you, saying you chose your GF's family over blood. You remind them that they didn't invite you to the cabin and purposely kept it secret from you for nearly half a year. The secret was only exposed by your nieces who actually cared whether family was together on Christmas or not. Don't let them guilt you for their failings. Therapy might be good too, my friend. Sounds like a lifetime of your family's failings to unpack. Story 6. Tifu by texting my date that I might end up marrying him seconds after we ended our date. Original post August 5th, 2020. This just happened to me. Literally 10 minutes ago. I am dying. I am dead. End me now, O Holy Ghost. I thought this only happened in some poorly written rom-coms, the kind where life hardly imitates the real one. I want to bury myself and never come to see the light again. Why me? Oh, why me? 10 painfully long minutes ago, I exalted by the wonderful date I went with this handsomely gorgeous man, who also happened to be a friend of mine for the last 3 years, against my apartment door that I had just closed on his beautiful face. I typed these words that will fiercely haunt me now. Bitch, I think I'm going to end up marrying this guy. This was meant for my best friend, the only other soul I could muster to express my vulnerable feelings. I sent this deeply poetic text to him instead. Do you think there is a void big enough in this planet to hold all my misery? All the embarrassment? Do you think I can make a pact with the devil to turn back time? I would just need 10 minutes. That'd be really nice. Can I please die now? Literal and metaphorical death is the only relief I might know. I am currently in my library, sprawled across the floor, intently staring at the ceiling. Man, I think I'll be here forever. TLDR. I mistakenly texted my date that I might end up marrying him as we just ended our date. Realized too late the text meant for my best friend was sent to him instead. Bitch, I owe you an update. Good news. There's so much staring at the ceiling one can do before pure boredom kicks in, and the realization that the desire to scream, fuck, 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 at the top of your lungs will most likely not last for an eternity. Bad news. You guys did me dirty by blasting my still-fresh embarrassment on the front page, and apparently on a famous Portuguese radio show this morning. Cool, cool, cool. So, on to the meaty love update. Once I realized the text blunder, I quickly texted him that it was not meant for him, with a crying emoji for good measure. Sweet, sweet man that he is, he responded immediately to let me know that he doesn't read texts not meant for him. I subsequently asked for permission to die. He said. Please don't. This morning he texted me about some travel plans we have down the line. Bless this handsome man. The gods are cruel, but not that cruel. This is where I should clarify that the original post was obviously a tad hyperbolic. Just like that text, go figure. I slept well last night, and I also laughed. At myself, the blunder, just the ridiculous timing. What also got imprinted on me was that exact moment I wrote and sent that text. The moment he leaned and kissed me goodnight. I looking at him as I closed my apartment door, locking it, and at once turning around and heavily sighing and smiling, keys still in hand. 2 weeks ago, he had proposed going on a walk at the park. I had an inkling somehow that after knowing each other for 3 years, he was going to finally, perhaps, become vulnerable and share a few things. I had been in a serious relationship when we met, and what I know now to be out of respect and my ironclad boundaries, he never made any advances. But I was single now, and at the park, sitting there together, he looked at me and said he had feelings for me. Long time, 3-year-long feelings, and right there at Prospect Park, on a clear night, under some 35 visible stars, we counted, he kissed me. Last night it was my turn to be vulnerable, even if accidentally. For once, I think I understand Ted. He was always the guy I wanted to throw my shoe at whenever his ridiculous face showed up on the screen, which was a lot. As for the library, I'm not Jane Austen, but I'm a New Yorker, and the luxury of ample space is not something I recognize. My dream as a child refugee, growing up in deep poverty, was to have a dedicated place for all the books I could buy when I would grow up and have money. Here's a pic of my library nook that I built through vintage thrifting, DIY projects, and patience. The library. This is it, folks, the update. I might prefer this life over any rom-com. Relevant comment. The pic of the library is gone, but OOP explains it in a comment. You guys, it's not a literal library. It's a corner of my apartment I've turned into a library nook. Also, for what is worth, this is an embarrassing story that just literally happened to me. But believe me, as a refugee who has suffered through deep poverty from early childhood, I'm well aware of all of the hardships existing out there. Now let me go back to staring at the ceiling. Justamien, you just ruined my mental picture of you in a dramatic swoon across a plush tapestry on the floor of a dusty Victorian library, cheeks flushed and with the back of your hand across your forehead, muttering things like, "Woe is me," and "Verily, I am vexed." Lady 1487. Make it into a joke. Bring up that that's what they say in those rom-coms and honestly just make it a laughable experience for both. Example. "Bitch, I think I'm going to end up marrying this guy," says every girl on a rom-com. Make it into a quote. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm the type of person to turn my fuck-up into a joke. OP. I'm probably going to greet him with a chirpy, "Hi, husband," next time I see him. Tweetered 1968. You can only refer to him as bitch from here on out. Tiff update July 17th, 2024, 4 years later. Bitch! We got married! 3 years after I mistakenly pressed send, texting this gorgeous specimen of a guy I would marry him seconds after ending our first date, keys still in hand as I struggled to both text and lock the door, and subsequently sprawled across my library wishing for the floor to engulf me, I did end up marrying the man. Damn, what in the world, life? Thought I'd let you guys know since you did help me with your funny comments and shared shameful moments to eventually get myself up that fateful evening, dust myself off, and not commit cringe seppuku. It's been 3 years of pure joy, and he's still as dreamy and kind, you guys. And it was kids. That's how I met your father after all. See you in the next chapter. TLDR. Bitch, I married the man. Sending that text by mistake 3 years ago telling him I'd marry him right after our first date was just the truth. Story 7. My fiancé got a face tattoo without talking to anyone. Original post November 4th, 2022. I am honestly stunned right now. My fiancé, Kim, I have just learned, is completely insane. She took some days off work this week sick and avoided seeing most people in person. She claimed she was feeling sick and just wanted to stay home alone. She has never given me any indication that she would lie about this in the 6 years we've been together. No one in her family had any worries because she was a stable individual who would never do anything crazy. She got a face tattoo. She took 3 sick days from work to recover from the fact that she got a face tattoo. She told no one of this plan beforehand. I have never in our time together been talked to about tattoos by Kim. She showed no indication that she was even interested in getting any. I was not even the first to learn. Her sister visited her because she got worried after Kim canceled meeting with her for lunch on her third day sick and got the grand reveal. She didn't tell anyone beforehand because she didn't want to be talked out of it, and hit the results because the swelling and redness were so bad that we would react badly and not be able to understand the artistic meaning. Kim is Asian American. She got Japanese symbols going down her forehead and under her eye. I don't know the meaning of them. I don't really know if I care to know the meaning of them. Kim's parents are Japanese immigrants. According to her sister, who was nice enough to inform me of this whole debacle, this is a big no-no in Japanese culture. Tattoos have links to crime and are looked down upon. Her parents are beside themselves, and that is a whole other set of drama I can't even begin to approach. Kim talked to me last night about it and acted offended and started a fight because I told her it was absolutely insane of her to do this. She works a public-facing job. She talks face-to-face with clients in the financial industry. The minute her boss finds out, the career that she went to school for will be over. She actually didn't consider her job, or family, or me at all, and decided a long time ago she was going to express herself freely without any concerns. I'm worried about her right now. This is not normal. She blocked my number after our fight and is ghosting me and her sister because we're trying to help. But dear Lord, this is far beyond me. I cannot comprehend what I'm even supposed to do right now. Kim's lost her mind. Is there any chance I will be happy married to this? A woman who went and got a face tattoo and hid that fact because she knew we would all talk her out of it? Dear Lord, I really need to run, don't I? Wow, this got some attention, huh? I read through the replies, but I can't really respond to all of you, so I'll just update here. The engagement is pretty much off. Kim has told me she never wants to see me again, and I woke up this morning with her ring and a box of stuff I gave her on my porch. I don't know what's going on with her. Her sister and family have been trying their best, but nothing on their end is working. I brought up to her sister the idea this is a mental breakdown, and they are looking into getting her help. It's painfully slow, considering Kim is not responding to anything and is refusing to talk to anyone. I really don't know what to say here, I guess. To answer some questions, Kim is 29, and I'm 28. In the 7 years I've known her, she has never acted like this at all. She had a good relationship with her parents, and while they were a bit overbearing at times, they supported her in going to college and getting a career rather than starting a family. From what I've gathered, they probably would have been fine with any tattoo she got, as long as it was not on her face, neck, or hands. Even then, this kind of behavior is as far from Kim as I could have imagined. She just lost her mind out of nowhere? It's not like I can do anything about it either. She's blocked my number and does not want to see me. I'm just at a loss for words. One day I'm engaged, and the net I'm not, and my ex has a face tattoo. Update: 8 months later, July 27th, 2023. About 9 months ago, my ex-fiancée, Kim, got a face tattoo without telling anyone. This was just the start of her doing everything she could to ruin her life. She broke up with me and called off our 7-year relationship when I questioned why she did this. She worked in a client-facing job for an incredibly large financial institution and was let go within a month of showing back up for work after getting the tattoo. I kept in contact with Kim's sister hoping for some news. They tried to get her help, as they thought she was having some kind of psychotic break. However, she eventually called the police on her own family, claiming they were harassing her. After that, I decided to just walk away. Kim didn't just destroy her own life. When she broke up with me, I felt numb. I knew this wasn't Kim doing this. I wanted to believe deep down that Kim was always like this. Always this impulsive crazy who would ruin her life by getting a face tattoo. I tried to convince myself that I had not lost a wonderful woman who I had spent 7 years of my life with. However, the person who made these choices was not Kim. The woman who told me over the phone she hated my guts for not supporting her. The woman who wrote she hated me and only ever stayed with me out of pity. That was not the woman I asked to marry. That was not Kim. That was someone who, I came to find out, was having a mental breakdown. That resulted in months of bad decisions that will affect the rest of her life. The day I walked away and told her sister I could not deal with it anymore was the worst day of my life. It hit me like a train. The numbness and denial of what I lost hit me all at once. I almost quit my own job and moved back home to my parents. I can only thank my boss for being so understanding that she let me take 4 weeks off to deal with what happened. She and the rest of my team went far beyond what should ever be expected of coworkers and management, that it makes me realize how close I was to leaving a job I actually enjoy. I never moved on from Kim, but I came to accept what had happened. I thought I was okay until 2 weeks ago. I got a call from Kim. She had blocked my number and done everything she could to remove me from her life. My mind just blanked when I saw it was her calling. I picked up, and it was actually her. We didn't talk. I did not know what to say to her. We decided she would come over to my place, and we talked. The tattoo is still there, but she's covering it up now with makeup. She says when she has the funds, she's going to look into getting it removed if possible. She had lost a lot of weight since I last saw her. She's not been able to find a new job. She'll probably need to move to a new city for that. She wasn't the Kim I had fallen in love with. She was like a shell of her. Something just wasn't there anymore that used to be. Kim told me what had happened. The year leading up to the tattoo was awful for her. The stress of everything seemed to pile up more and more. I'll respect her and keep much of what she told me secret. However, the thing that is important is that she secretly started doing methamphetamines to keep her performance up at work and to deal with everything. And one day, she just out of nowhere decided she hated everything about her life. She explained why at the time she wanted the tattoo. It doesn't really make much sense, but a lot of what she was thinking at the time didn't. And from there, she just lost control of everything. I won't talk about what happened after she disappeared, but it is not pretty. There are things she did that will follow her for the rest of her life. It explained a lot, but it did not make things any better. We talked for nearly the entire night. She didn't leave my place till almost 4 a.m. Since then, she's said that she wants to try and get back together with me. She admitted she knows things cannot be the same. Yet she wants to try. I haven't talked to anyone about what I'm about to say yet. I've held off on talking to Kim about it because it feels selfish. But there's something about the way Kim acts about the way it affected my life that irks me. When we talked that night, she said that I was lucky she cut me off. I was lucky I didn't get put through any of this. I was lucky that my crazy ex wasn't at my door screaming or showing up to my work and causing a scene. She acts like my life wasn't affected at all. I told her what happened after she left, how much it hurt, how I almost quit my job and moves across the country. Her response was dismissive, like because I didn't go through with that, I don't get to complain. She acted like because I was not the one with the tattoo on her face, I don't get to act like it had long-lasting effects on me. She didn't even apologize for the explicit and hateful note she left with my things when she returned them, or for the phone call where she called me a manipulative, selfish asshole who only wanted her for her body, or even just for breaking up with me. She knows she was wrong to do it, but it's almost as if she's acting like because she had a breakdown, I can't hold her accountable for what she did to me because it wasn't long-lasting. I texted her last night, saying how hard it was for me when she left. She ignored it entirely and tried to move on. No acknowledgement at all. I don't know why, but it hurt me. It hurt me so much. I feel like I did back when all those emotions finally hit me after she left. I wish she had just never come back into my life now. I wish I didn't know what happened. I wish I hadn't picked up the call, because it hurts. But a part of me feels like I'm being selfish or complaining too much, that I don't get to feel this way because I'm not the one who had the mental breakdown. New update. My ex died of a drug overdose, June 13th, 2024, 1 year after first update. I learned yesterday that my ex, Kim, died of a drug overdose Sunday. I'm still processing the news, I guess. We broke up 2 years ago after Kim got a face tattoo out of nowhere. I have some other posts on this account about that if you want the full story. Kim reappeared in my life about a year ago after breaking up with me and essentially becoming a ghost. She wanted to get back together with me, and I stupidly considered it and let her get the foot in the door. She claimed she was clean, but she wasn't. It was obvious she was still using meth, and my guess is she was still using fentanyl. After I finally declined to get back together with her, she slashed my tires after causing a scene at my office. Luckily, she's been out of my life for 6-ish months now after some cop put the fear of God in her after she broke the restraining order. I've not heard much about Kim since then, thankfully. Last I heard, she was wanted on a warrant and was hiding low across state lines. Yesterday, though, Kim's sister called me to let me know she was found dead Sunday morning. She wanted me to hear it from her instead of through the grapevine. I appreciate it. Despite everything, Kim's family have been nothing but kind to me. Kim's parents are quietly cremating her, and there won't be any ceremony. Seems that stealing and abusing her family since she started doing meth has made them just as detached about her as me. Or maybe they've already mourned the loss of their daughter long ago, and now is just the end of whatever remained. Right now, I don't know how to feel. I feel like I should be sad. I knew Kim for 7 years. I was with her for 6. I was engaged to her. I lost my virginity to her. She was the first person I truly loved. I used to sit up with her and talk about the family I wanted to have. I wanted Kim to be the mother to my kids. Sat up with me as I cried when I heard the news of my mother's death. At one point in my life, she was the most important thing in the world to me, and I don't feel anything. When Kim left me, I was devastated. When she came back into my life, she made me feel a combination of emotions I can't even describe. And now, hearing the news that she's dead, I don't feel anything. I don't feel numb. I'm not in shock. I'm lacking any emotion towards this event at all. I feel like I should feel something, right? I still miss Kim, not the Kim that died Sunday, not the Kim that stalked me, but the Kim I met, the Kim I fell in love with, the Kim that died when she started to do meth. I still feel sad when I think about her, but knowing this other Kim is dead just makes me feel nothing. Story 8. I just got an email on my husband's iPad that the hot water in his apartment building was going to be shut down temporarily for repairs. We own our own house and have not rented for over a decade. Original post October 17, 2022. My husband is on a trip with one of our sons and his brother to go visit their mother, my son's grandmother. I was cleaning up the den when an email notification popped up on his iPad. It was an email from an apartment complex that they were going to be temporarily closing down the hot water for repairs, sent from one of those automatic senders that you can't reply to. It was addressed to my husband, with his first and last name. The thing is, we own our house. We haven't rented in over 10 years, and even then it wasn't this place. Where my husband is, upstate NY, there isn't any service. I tried to send him a picture of the email, but it won't go through. I called him and spoke to him for a bit. Service was choppy, but I managed to explain to him about the email, and basically all he said is that it must be a mistake, and they had the wrong email. We weren't able to say much before the call just dropped. But if it was a wrong email, how would they have his first and last name, all spelled correctly? For context, his first name is somewhat common, but our last name isn't common, especially in this area. There weren't any other emails from this sender or about this apartment complex in my husband's emails, but he is also the kind who clears out his inbox as he gets messages. I sent a message to the apartment complex telling them that I think my husband was on their email list by mistake, but I just got an automatic email sent back that they were out of the office until 10/20, and then general rent information pricing, 1 bedroom $1,600, 2 bedroom $1,900, and that there were no open units available. There was no unit number on the email, but the complex is about 15 minutes away from our house, so I went and I drove by, which I guess might be a little crazy, I know. I didn't see anything. Not like I knew what to expect. It's a group of buildings, less than 100 apartments in all. I don't have any reason to mistrust my husband other than this weird email that gives me a strange feeling in the pit of my stomach, as well as a general feeling of paranoia that he's just been bored with me. I've been feeling this way for a little while, but he insists I'm imagining it and that he's happy. I only brought it up to him once when I was feeling particularly insecure last year. We still do things together. He still tells me he loves me, etc., I just feel like he doesn't have as much fun with me as he used to, and like he looks for reasons to be out of the house or doing things specifically with the boys instead of doing things with the whole family. It's not like it's something that bothers me every day, just something that I think about when I'm feeling insecure or paranoid, like in a situation like this where he gets an email from random apartment complexes, lol. Anyway, I don't know exactly what advice I'm looking for. I know the advice I would have for one of my friends would be just to talk to him, but I really can't do that until he comes home on Saturday, which is a really long time for me to sit with my intrusive thoughts. Edit. He never lived here in the past. He lived with his parents until college, and then lived in a dorm, and then every place he rented was with me. We've been dating since we were 19. Edit 2. The email wasn't a phishing scam. It was a legitimate email from the email address on the apartment complex's website. All of the information included in the email letterhead matched the information on the apartment complex's website. And if it was a phishing scam, I assume they would have been looking for information. This email wasn't looking for anything, it was just an informational email about the water. Update. My best friend called the emergency maintenance number and said that she was a delivery driver who had over $100 worth of food for, and said my husband's name, but said he had forgotten to fill in his apartment number. The guy didn't speak English very well, but after she repeated herself a few times, he did eventually say his name and then told us an apartment number. Relevant comment. D-Dog 1304. Call the apartment complex to see if they are shutting down the water to see if it's real, and then do some more digging. I called them and got an answering service. D-Dog 1304. I know you trust your husband, but don't let that blind trust stop you from seeing if he is in fact hiding something from you. Oh, up. The email was real. It all matches the actual information on the apartment complex website. DCage 55. Realize apartment manager is out until 10/20, but doesn't the voicemail include another number for overnight emergencies? OP. Yes, it gave the private cell phone number for the maintenance person. DCage 55. Call them. Explain you have a delivery for Mr. OP, but the unit hash is missing, and you're under a deadline to deliver as it's perishable. OP. Thank you. This is a good idea, and it worked. The maintenance guy didn't speak English very well, so I think he was somewhat confused, but he eventually gave us an apartment number. Additional comment from OP. He's never lived there before. Again, the email had good specific first and last name. He has company finances. He owns his company. I don't have access to. There were no other emails, but his email had been emptied out a few days ago. Some nothing is older than a week. Update 1. Last night I found out about my husband's secret apartment, and my friend went to it. October 18th, 2022. Next day. Sorry about the late update. My post was locked by the time I got to it. I'm currently writing this on the ride upstate. Yesterday I posted about an email I had gotten on my husband's email from an apartment complex talking about fixing the water. My husband, who is upstate visiting his mother until Saturday, has next to no cell service, so I haven't been able to talk to him about any of this, other than saying that the email must have been a mix-up. My friend called and got his apartment number from the maintenance man. Both of us went over to the apartment and my friend knocked. A girl answered but didn't answer the door. Just the bell camera. My friend said she was there looking for Adam. The girl said that Adam wasn't there but wouldn't give her more information than that, which I get. My friend was just a total stranger at her door. When we left, I could see her looking out the apartment window at us. I tried to call my husband 1,000 times yesterday and nothing went through. The few times the call did pick up, the service was so bad you could barely hear anything. So I'm headed upstate to confront him in person. I have a copy of the email, as well as a photo of the apartment, as well as a recording of the girl saying that Adam wasn't there, which is a confirmation to me that she knows him. If this is somehow all a big misunderstanding, I'm going to have my husband explain it to me in person instead of waiting until he comes home. I haven't gotten a chance to read all the comments, but I will go through them now and try to respond to what I can. I haven't slept, so I hope this makes sense. Edit to everyone telling me that I should just wait, not confront him. Talk to her first. He's my husband. He's the father of my children. If I'm going to find out that he's cheating on me, it is going to be from him. I'm going to say this for the last time. Please, stop advising me not to go talk to my husband about this very serious situation that we are in. I will go talk to a lawyer if need be. However, we have been married for over a decade. We have a family and a life together. I am going to go talk to him. I understand what the situation probably is. I understand that he's probably going to try to lie to me. I'm not a moron. Relevant comment? Corfis, 74. Wouldn't it have been better to get her story first and confront him with all the facts? Now he's just going to lie and deflect his ass off and make you look like the crazy bad guy. He will have come up with a doozy of a story by now. Did you at least use his photo with the maintenance guy so that you have visual confirmation it's him? OP. How can I get her story when she was barely willing to say anything to my friend? The reason why we didn't push her is because she wasn't giving us any information, and we were worried that she was going to call the police. My friend tried to ask her more questions. She wasn't giving her any information. Final update. I confronted my husband October 18th, 2022, same day as first update. I'm writing this from a hotel room. I went to confront my husband. He knew the minute my car pulled up what was going on. He came outside to meet me, and the first thing he said was, "Did you go to the apartment?" And I told him, yeah. So then he said, "So I guess we have to have a talk," and again I said, yeah. And I'm not going to get into the exact details of it. It was a long talk, and it involved a lot of emotions. She is his girlfriend. They've been together for 4 months. She is under the impression that we are separated and going through the divorce process. His family wasn't aware of this. His brother and mother, who were there, were horrified. I'm sorry I don't have more to say. I've already contacted a divorce lawyer, a therapist, and a financial advisor. Thanks to everyone for your support. Relevant comment? Married life 7. I am so sorry. I am guessing the girlfriend messaged him, which is why he knew why you were there. Be sure to log into your bank accounts, and if you feel it is necessary, take a screenshot and withdraw half of it into a new account just under your name. OP. She did not message him. He gets no service up there. He just saw the car pulling up and put 2 and 2 together. Don't _give _up 86. How did he pay for this for probably well over 4 months without you noticing? OOP. His company funds. Mooney Sandcat. My dear, that sounds like embezzlement, and that is a whole other can of worms. Story 9. I'm babysitting my sister, and she thinks she needs to go to the ER for her period. An IDK. Original post, August 22nd, 2024, 7:53 p.m. Okay, so I, 19M, am babysitting my little sister, 15F, while our parents are on a trip internationally. It's like a completely different time zone, and the signal sucks. They get home in like 6 days. But we are both pretty self-sufficient and felt like it would be fine, and my parents left us food and money and stuff. We've been Gucci for a whole week so far. Anyway, this morning she got her period while we were just like sitting playing video games, and she got blood all over the couch, so I paused the game while she took care of it and put on a Tampad and didn't make a big deal of it. I was trying to be nice because I know it can make girls cranky and it hurts and stuff, so I got snacks and a blanket and whatever, and we kept playing. Well, like maybe 40 minutes later, she freaked out because she bled on the couch again, and I'm like, did you put the thing on wrong or what? So she changed again, and I even helped her clean the blood off the couch this time, and I figured she'd use a bigger feminine thing. NBD. Well, like 30 minutes after we start playing again, she pauses and goes to the bathroom, and I hear her scream, so I run over there thinking there's a spider or something, but she came out holding like this chunk. It was like a chunk of blood. But looking at it, I'm like, shit, maybe that's an organ. Like, is that your kidney? But she was like, no, it's a clot. And she was freaking out about it, which, yeah, it was gross. It was like the size of a hacky sack. So I'm like, okay, well, go flush your clot. Anyway, she cleans herself up, but then she said she doesn't want to play anymore, and I'm like, okay. So she spent an hour on the couch with her face all scrunched up doing yoga breathing and telling me her cramps were the worst ever. So I gave her Tylenol, but she wouldn't take it because she said she feels like she's going to throw up. I brought her water and juice and warmed up that gel thing you stick on your stomach, you know? So I was trying to help. Well, then she says, "Oh no." And she gets up and goes to the bathroom, and as she's walking, she's got like blood going down her leg. She yelled for me from the bathroom, and I go in there, and she's sitting there, and I hear this plopping sound, and there's more of those chunks, like maybe 2 of them, and she says, "I think we need to go to the ER." I'm like, "Why?" And she tells me this is more blood than she's ever had, and she doesn't feel good. But periods are supposed to suck, right? And she wouldn't take the Tylenol either, so she didn't really try to manage it at home. So then she started yelling at me, telling me I have to take her because she can't drive. But I'm pretty sure our parents will kill me if I take her to the ER for her period. Is that a thing? She's sitting in the shower now because she said she thought the warm water would feel good and she was sick of bleeding on stuff, and it's more comfortable than the toilet. I asked her if she just needs a bigger Tampad, and she told me to SFU, so she's not even communicating with me at this point. I've asked her a few times if she's okay in there, and she tells me, "I'm bleeding out, Mason. What do you think?" So, like, she's not unconscious. IDK, I don't know anything about this, but I also know she hates blood and flips out about any minor cut, too. Is going to the ER because of a period a thing? Can you bleed too much? I thought there was only a certain amount of blood in the vagina every month. I feel like she'd be more comfortable at home anyway if she'd just take the Tylenol. IDK, what to do? My sister is like average teenage girl height, pretty skinny because she's a ballerina and doesn't eat meat. She takes Accutane for her pimples. I'm not sure if there's other stuff that's important. She's had her period for like a year now, I'm pretty sure. Maybe more. She takes Flintstone gummy vitamins sometimes, like the ones in the purple jar. And she's obsessed with Celsius energy drinks. She wears contacts and she had her wisdom teeth removed 2 months ago. IDK, I want her to be okay and stuff, but I'm not sure the ER is a good choice. Help? Relevant? Come on. Is there any chance of pregnancy miscarriage? I mean, I don't think so. She doesn't have a boyfriend, and when I asked, she told me to fuck off, so probably not. Tampons or pads? I asked, and she said she was using a tampon first, but after that she used both to prevent leaks. So both, I guess? She said always with Wings and Tampax Sport. Commenter, Doc. If she's saturating more than 1 tampon in an hour, she should be seen. OOP. She said she was soaking both of them, so I guess we're going. Mini updates in comments. 30 minutes later, OP. Okay, she's throwing some extra clothes and shit in a bag. I'm trying to think what my mom would do, so I brought water bottles, sunscreen, and snacks. And something to do. Commenter. Well, you don't need sunscreen at the hospital. Extra clothes. Maybe a water bottle. Snacks are good. Insurance card. And call your parents. Didn't they leave another adult's number for you to call in an emergency? Do you have another relative? OP? Oh shit, yeah, I gotta tell my parents. Fuck, I mean, no, they didn't, but I think it's because I'm the adult. Any other adults? OOP. All our relatives live on the other side of the country. But like she has friends and they have moms? But she wasn't into the idea of asking them. Commenter. Let this be a lesson to you. If a woman says this is wrong, this doesn't seem normal, about her own body, try listening to her and not making her jump through hoops convincing you something is wrong while you ask the internet for advice. Just listen to her. OP. Yeah, I was being a dick. The sunscreen. Yeah, Lowell, I didn't think about the fact that it's inside, just like my mom always yelling about sunscreen. OOP is encouraged to bring a comfort item for his sister. Okay. This makes me feel good because I packed her Squishmallow, and I was kind of afraid to tell her I did that in case she thought it was embarrassing or some. I sent my mom a text. 1 hour later, in response to someone telling him to bring a bowl in case she vomits, "Naw FR. I wish I would have read this BC. She threw up in the car twice. She told me to stop driving like Stevie Wonder, and I swear I was laughing so hard I almost had to pull over." Commenter, it sounds like she is really comfortable with you. I mean, she let you help her clean up and showed you clots. And you didn't get all, "Ew, I'm a guy, don't show me." Frankly, you are acting better than my husband would when it comes to helping. He'd never look at my blood or think to bring snacks. So you are doing pretty good, and she might not feel she needs another female. OP. I mean, if I acted grossed out, she'd tell me to grow TF up LOL. My sister doesn't deal with stupid dudes. But yeah, we're close, and it's just blood, so. About 2 hours after OG post. Okay, we got here. She threw up a couple times in the car, but she said she's good now. We walked in, and she was like dripping down her leg again, and they saw that at the desk, and maybe how fucking freaked I looked LOL, and took her back pretty much right away. Commenter. Adding to this, because questions about her sexual history and habits are definitely going to be asked, Big Bro, make it clear to her that if she wants you to leave, you will. If she wants you to stay, I would make it clear to her that you're not going to snitch on her about anything she says. If it's something that needs to be brought up to your parents, the docs can do that. It's not your job to tell your parents her answers. If you can't make her that promise, tell her you can't be in the room. OOP, nah, I'm not saying shit if I find anything out. She caught me smoking weed on the roof 2 years ago and still hasn't ratted LOL. About 1 hour 10 minutes later, 3 from OG Post, 11:0 p.m. Okay, so she's getting Zofran and fluids and they're going to do an ultrasound in the room here. So far, we know she's not pregnant, and her labs, some of them weren't great. Hemoglobin was 6.8 comma. Editor's note, that's not good. Normal for women is 12, 16, see here. That's basically the one I remember. She said to tell everyone thank you for the advice and stuff. She also said to say she feels okay, just really tired. Commenter, the tube sounds like a catheter. They may want a clean urine sample. The excessive bleeding can contaminate a urine sample and affect certain test results. OP, oh yeah, okay. They said they wanted a urine sample, but I was thinking why can't she just pee in a cup? About 1 hour, 20 minutes later, 4.5-ish from OG Post. All right, the ultrasound was normal. She's being admitted. They want to test her for bleeding and clotting disorders now, and they're going to give her some blood. They asked if I know my blood type, which I don't, but I'm not sure why it matters. Sister is B+, though. Commenter 1, I mean tampad's a good way of saying tampon or pad. Commenter 2, I agree, this is a useful neologism, OP, thanks. OP, see, I'm not a dumbass, I'm just inventing new terms. Commenter, you have properly unmouthed your foot, so don't be afraid to ask questions now. It's much better to ask questions so you don't have to worry or freak out about things you don't know or don't understand, than to drive yourself mad with worry about something that might not warrant that worry or leaves you with unanswered questions. Best of luck to you and your sis. Was she happy you packed her squishmallow? OP. Yeah, she's sleeping on the squishmallow like a pillow Ryan and told me it's the only reason she forgives me lol. That's a good idea, though when she wakes up I'll ask her. Commenter. If she gets admitted, you may want to consider making a trip home to pick up any comfort items either of you two need, like a book, laptop, or blanket. But only if your sister feels comfortable with that. OP. So she packed clothes and I packed her squishmallow and our switches so we would have stuff to do. But she didn't even want me to get up to go pee, so I don't think she wants me to leave LOL. She's asleep now, though. Commenter, definitely not the worst way to have to spend time in a hospital LOL. Hope she turns out okay, though I'm extremely curious about what the root cause is, and if you both feel comfortable sharing, I'd love to know. OOP. Yeah, she said she doesn't care as long as I don't post any pics of her because she said she looks like 2024 Amanda Bynes and Britney Spears combined LOL. Commenter. For future reference, you can call your doctor's office or an advice nurse with stuff like this. They will ask you a bunch of questions about what's going on and tell you what to do. OOP. Yeah, I was Googling, do you go to the ER for a bad period, and that's how I found the subreddit LOL. But if something ever happens again, that's probably a better bet. 7 hours later, about 12 from OG Post. We both slept. Got a hold of our parents. My mom is looking for flights back home. Sister is feeling a lot better at this point. They gave her medicine to stop the bleeding. I wasn't expecting this to blow up the way it did, so there's no way I'll be able to answer everyone. She's doing okay, though. Should know more about the CT soon. Commenter, mate. I grew up with a shitty big brother, and even now as adults, I know he couldn't do half the job you've done of taking care of your little sis. You have restored my faith in humanity, and big bros. Glad to see the night was uneventful and that you got hold of your parents. And whatever you do, don't forget to reapply your sunscreen often. OP, man, she changed my name in her phone to SPF. I'm never living this shit down, LOL. 1.5 hours later, 13.5 from OG Post. All right, her vitals now are 100, 165ths, and 80. So better. 6 hours later, 19 from OG Post. CT was good too. They're pretty sure she has a blood disorder. They're just waiting on the results of it. I guess when she had her wisdom teeth out, she bled more than she was supposed to, but I didn't know that before. So, yeah, just waiting on that for now, but they don't think the issue is her uterus or whatever. Commenter: just wanted to also mention that I think your post has become the #1 post to have ever been on with the most engagement ever. OOP JFC, I'm kind of embarrassed, LOL, I'm glad this is anonymous. 8 hours later, 27 hours from OG Post. All right, I'm going to try here instead of a post and hopefully be more covert LOL, but could someone that knows about it tell me about type 2 von Willebrand's? Like the blood disorder? Because the internet says everything from like it's mild to it's life-threatening, and I just want to know more about it and like how it affects day-to-day life and stuff. I appreciate the help with my sister before, too. It's cool you guys just do this. Comments on another sub. OOP. Yeah, it got scary fast. It was crazy. But like no one has ever brought up taking her to the ER for it before. So IDK, I thought maybe she was scared because our mom wasn't there to make her feel better and I don't know anything about it. Update 1, same post. Probably late August 23rd, the following day from OG Post. Update. All right, so I guess I was posting updates in the comments, but it's better here. Anyway, so my sister is okay. She had some scans that were all fine, and they don't think she has fibroids or tumors or anything like that. She's feeling a little better, but still staying here at least another day. Our mom and dad are flying home tomorrow now. My mom was pissed I texted her instead of calling at first LOL. Already had someone try to find me on Insta, so like if you know me or her know, you don't LOL. She doesn't want this going around school or whatever, so don't dox us for at least 3 years LOL. She's cool with me updating, though, without her name or whatever. Also, our parents don't know about this either, IDK. I feel like we should wait until it's been a few years to tell them too, so they don't kill me LOL. She's gonna hold this shit over my head forever LOL. Anyway, they think she has a blood disorder that makes her not clot right. I'm not 100% sure how it works because she had big clots, but they said they're pretty sure that's what's going on because her PTT took longer than normal to clot. They're waiting on von Willebrand, SP, testing to come back, but they think she has type 2, probably. Gonna Google that tonight, BCIDK what that is, and I've never heard of it, so I guess if any of the doctors know what that is, or if this sounds like it, LMK. Yeah, wasn't expecting this to blow up like this, LOL. I thought this was just like doctors answering questions like a helpline. But my sister said thank you for everyone telling me to take her, and she's okay. Update 2. Same post, probably same day as previous update, or soon after. Update again. They confirmed it's von Willebrand's. IDK, if I'll ever spell that right. Anyway, it's genetic, I guess, so they want me to get tested too. But like obviously I've never had periods and I've never had surgery, so it wouldn't be as obvious. There's still more testing, IG, like more specific to the type. But anyway, sister is good and we have an answer. She's going to talk to a hematologist next week about what that means and stuff. Update 3. Same post. August 29th, 2024, 1 week from OG Post. New update. So, IG, I also have von Willebrand's. So does our mom. I've always bruised a lot and got super bad nosebleeds, but like, I was also a dumbass kid teen who thought life was an audition for Jackass, so I didn't think it was weird LOL. Anyway, we're all about to be real familiar with hematology, and my mom is pissed she's been told some women just bleed more her whole life LOL. Guess my mom and sister weren't just exaggerating when they would say they were bleeding out. So, yeah, if you're a girl reading this and you bleed as much as my sister, you should see a doctor. Hopefully no one gets gaslit like my mom did, but yeah, here's a public apology for being ignorant on what y'all actually go through BC. I thought you could only bleed so much a month, fully willing to admit how fucking stupid that was LOL. OOP's second post. August 29th, 2024. Same day as Update 3. Hi, so it's me again. 19M, apparently not that smart, questioning my career goals as a teacher. Anyway, my sister was on her period and thought she needed to go to the ER, and she actually did. I've got another question now, but first, thank you to everyone who answered my first post and educated me BC she was in rough shape. Except for the girl who suggested drinking whole milk. Even I'm not that fucking stupid WTF. Anyway, so my sister has von Willebrand's disease, type 2. My mom and I also have it apparently. My mom just got gaslit for years about how much she bled, and it took my sister almost dying for us to all get diagnosed like TF. Anyway, I play on a recreational rugby league. Gonna have to pay dues soon, and I don't want to be out the money if I'm gonna get told I shouldn't play anymore because it's a contact sport. But I don't see a hematologist for 5 weeks, since I'm not urgent LOL. So was wondering if any of the doctors know if I'm gonna get told I probably shouldn't play rugby anymore. I also like rock climbing. Is that gonna be out? Should I learn chess or crochet or something, LOL? Thanks again. Relevant comma. Commenter. If you aren't confirmed yet, don't play contact sports right now until at least you get testing. Read that paper as it has a decent list of other sports activities you can do more safely. You do not need to live in a bubble. OOP. Okay. Yeah, it's confirmed I have it, but I don't know the types and letter and stuff. But yeah, I guess I'm gonna go learn how to play snooker, then lol thanks. Commenter. I'm a lurker here because I'm not a doctor, but I am a teacher and I do remember your post. Teaching is a lovely career, and the profession would benefit from someone as compassionate as you. OP. Lol, one thing is for sure no students will get sunburned on my watch. Commenter. Thank you so much for this update. Not only is it interesting, but it furthers all of our professional knowledge base when we are able to hear how things turned out. Good luck to you and your family. And I'm glad that your mom's medical issues have finally been validated. That's huge. OP. Oh yeah, I mean, she's in her 40s. She'll kill me if I say exactly how old though, LOL. So like I can't believe she's been suffering for 30-something years. She said she's about to write a big "I told you so" to every doctor who ever told her to get used to it. Commenter. Dead serious. No pun intended. You should take up comedy. The ones that are the funniest are the ones that don't understand how funny they are. I'm glad your sister is okay, and I hope you are good too. OOP. Oh yeah, I'm totally good. Thanks, man. Showed this to my sister and she said, "Tell them you're already insufferable as it is. The last thing you need is an audience." Savage, LOL. Commenter. You'll know more after your consultation. There are different types of von Willebrands, so what applies to your sister and your mom will not necessarily apply to you. I'm glad you guys got to the bottom of it, and I am extremely disheartened to hear that your mother was gaslit her entire life about her symptoms. There's not really an excuse from the medical community for that, and I'm sorry. OOP. Hey, thanks. It's good to know it might not be the same. Honestly, I'm surprised I made it this far without my brain bleeding because I was the poster child for ADHD LOL. One more sunscreen comment. My dad's been calling me Banana Boat since they got back RIP any game I had LOL. Final fun comment. Commenter, please accept this version of an award because there's no way I'm paying for them through here. But dude, the sunscreen. I feel like this should be as well known on Reddit as the poop knife. OP, IDK what poop knife is, but I'm honored lowly. Story 10. I finally told my father's infantilizing friend that I hate him. Original post, August 10th, 2023. Years ago, my dad met Harold through mutual friends, and they hit it off. I was 18 and in college when I met him, and we never had a close relationship. However, he always seemed to think of himself as a family friend and was extremely infantilizing and condescending towards me. Every time I saw him, I'd try to tell myself it wasn't that bad, only for him to prove me wrong less than a minute later. Harold would disrespect my boundaries, say things like, "You're not 19, you're a baby," while I was talking to other people, and patronize me, my education or my hobbies whenever he had the chance. He always noticed that annoyed me, to which he'd playfully ask if I hated him. I always said no, but only for my father's sake. The final straw came the day Harold interrupted a barbecue to say, "I really like you, even though you're an impolite brat." I was 20 years old. I'd been quiet all day, working on a paper during the barbecue, but replied patiently and politely whenever anyone addressed me. And even if that hadn't been the case, I knew he didn't have the right to talk to me like that. After that, I started making an effort to avoid any events I knew he'd be attending. Yesterday was my father's girlfriend's birthday. They threw a small lunch party at my dad's apartment. I went there with my fiancée and our 6-month-old son. Harold was there. I hadn't seen him in months, but he still talked to me as if I was a dumb child. Never mind that I'm engaged, a mother, and 26 years old. I spent the whole party ignoring his helpful advice about me being too young to get married or be a mom. It helped that most of the other guests seemed to disagree with him. My baby spent most of the afternoon sleeping. There's a bassinet in my old room. He woke up hungry, so I went to breastfeed him and excused myself from the party for a while. I got back to jokes and comments, all from Harold, about how I was probably struggling if my son was managing to leech me away for so long. He went on to interrupt a conversation I was having with another of my dad's friends to question pretty much everything about my parenting. He doesn't even have custody of his daughter, by the way, and to make more comments about my age. I decided I couldn't take it anymore after he asked if I'd thought about giving my baby up for adoption. I got my son and told my fiancé we were leaving. We said goodbye to everyone except Harold. When we got to the door, Harold came to ask why we were leaving. I tried to make up an excuse, but he kept trying to make us stay. After a small back and forth, he jokingly asked if I hated him, and this time I said, "Yes, I do. Can we go now?" He didn't say anything, and we left. On the way home, my fiancé said he was proud of me. My father called this morning to say the opposite, and we had a small fight, but ultimately decided to drop the subject. I'm sure this isn't over, but if it keeps going, it won't be because of me. This is far from my proudest moment, and a small part of me regrets it, but I'm done with that guy. Edit. Jesus Christ Superstar, that's a lot of comments. To answer some common questions. I don't think Harold is in love with me. Harold didn't tell me to give up my son. He asked if I'd thought of doing so when I got pregnant. It was still an awful question, especially since he interrupted a conversation I was having with someone else. My dad's girlfriend's pregnant friend, who was asking about my own pregnancy and delivery, to ask it. I don't like making a big deal out of things unless necessary. If I'm uncomfortable, I leave. If I don't like someone, I avoid them. It's usually less stressful. The fight between me and my father ended when I told him about the adoption comment. I don't think he gets that's not the only reason I left, but it was definitely what broke the camel's back. I really don't need my father to stop being friends with Harold. He's a grown man capable of making his own crappy decisions. I never told my dad I hated Harold because I never thought I had to like him in the first place. He's my father's friend, not mine. And I've been distancing myself from Harold since I was 20, meaning I haven't seen him much in the last 6 years. My fiancé was on the other side of the room and wasn't listening to Harold's comments. I filled him in when we got to the car. He's 100% on my side. Update August 18th, 2023. Hey guys! I wasn't going to write an update, but I just got some free time and I figured I'd fill you in. I'll start by addressing the very frequent assumption that Harold has feelings for me. I really don't think that's the case. His comments always came out as annoying and condescending, but never sexual. But I will say that your comments scared the shit out of me, and the fact that the general consensus was fuck Harold was weirdly heartwarming. I also want to add that while I did regret what I said a little bit, I never doubted I'd done the right thing. I think most of my regret came from the fact that my 8 years of keeping the peace were over. It took some time for the relief to sink in. Truth be told, I've been wanting to do this since the barbecue incident, which was when I went from, "I don't like that guy," to, "I can't stand that guy." My father called Harold the day after I made my previous post. When confronted about the adoption comment, he tried to twist it as him being genuinely concerned about me being a mom so soon, and that he didn't think I knew what I was doing. He did apologize to my father. I don't buy any of that. The next day, my dad told me about the call. He said I should forgive Harold for what he thought was an honest misunderstanding. He also told me I should apologize too, since I'd overreacted by telling Harold I hated him for such a small reason. Many of Harold's past comments were made with my father close by. It often happened in the middle of conversations with other people, so he'd be too distracted to register them. He also wouldn't notice them most of the time. My dad doesn't pay enough attention to anything that doesn't either concern or anger him, and he'll most likely forget it until he gets angry at something else later anyway. He's like a meth-head goldfish. We also have different definitions of what's offensive, so he'd never think they were a big deal. I told my father I wasn't exaggerating when I said I hated Harold, and that the adoption comment was far from being the only reason. I listed most of the condescending treatment and comments I could remember, including the ones from the party. He didn't remember any of them. I made it very clear that I'd hated Harold for years prior to the party, and that I had nothing to apologize for. I then stated that I'm no longer coming to any events Harold is invited to. My father doesn't need to stop being friends with him, or even stop inviting him to stuff, but he can no longer expect me to show up as well. I will ask him beforehand, and if he lies, I'll leave. My father called me dramatic, but I pointed out that I've been avoiding Harold for 6 years now and no one even noticed, so it clearly wasn't a problem. I've only seen him a handful of times since the barbecue incident, and only twice for more than a few minutes, the lunch party last week and another party back when I was pregnant. It clearly didn't ruin my father's life. I'm not obliged to like his friends any more than he is to like mine. There was some back and forth, but he agreed to my terms. We spoke yesterday about something else, and he mentioned Harold was upset. I ignored that. I'm not going NC with my father. Yes, I'm very well aware he's an asshole, and I came really close to cutting times with him in the last few years, but I ultimately decided it wouldn't really fix anything. Maintaining my relationship with him has gotten a lot easier since I moved out, as we only see each other a couple times a month. He gets frustrated that I don't call or text much, but doesn't complain about it anymore. I don't see the point in going NC with someone who no longer has any say in how I live my life. I'd rather just take note of what my father did wrong when I was growing up and then make sure to raise my own kid differently. He's on thin ice, though, and has been for some time. He's not allowed to babysit, mostly because I don't trust him to spend more than an hour alone with a baby without falling asleep on the couch. I began pushing for him to start doing therapy back when I got pregnant, and he finally got started back in June. His behavior around me and my younger sister, who still lives between our very divorced parents, has improved a lot since, and I've made it clear to him that he won't be allowed near my son if he stops attending. This is the first time in my life my father has improved his behavior. It's hard to be hopeful, but I'm trying, and if I ever do go NC with my father, it won't be because of fucking Harold. So that's it. Overall, I'm glad I don't have to deceive anyone anymore. My relationship with my father is rocky, but I won't dwell on it. My main responsibilities are my son, my fiancé, and my job, and that's not changing anytime soon. And to those who mentioned Jesus Christ Superstar and Blue Oyster Cult in my last post, has anyone told you you're fucking awesome today? Because you are. New update. A short-ish. Harold update September 11th, 2024. Hey guys! Wow, I can't believe it's been over a year since I last posted about this. I planned on updating some time ago. These past few months, I've been caught up in raising a toddler, getting married, yay, working like crazy and rewatching Supernatural. Needless to say, I've been busy. Openly avoiding Harold has been working pretty well. My father has been respecting my boundaries. Whenever he invites me and my husband over for lunch or dinner, I ask who else will be there. If Harold's coming, he tells me. He hasn't lied so far and doesn't usually insist when I tell him I'm not coming. Since my last post, I've only seen Harold once, at my dad's birthday party a few months ago. Yes, I knew he'd be there. My father promised he'd tell him not to talk to me. Also, some of my father's friends' kids, most of whom I used to babysit, would be there. I hadn't seen them in a while, and I love them more than I hate Harold. I ended up spending most of the party with my son and the kids. Harold didn't talk to me at all, so I guess my father was true to his word. My husband and I did catch him staring at us a couple times, but I decided to ignore it. I caught my husband staring back once, and the walking marshmallow I married actually managed to look threatening. I love this man. You know who did talk to me? Harold's girlfriend. Yes, he has one now. She interacted with me twice. First, she came over to coo over my son before making a comment about how he needed a haircut. Ha ha ha, I already hate you. Later, she approached me and said, "You're shy, aren't you?" I said no. She laughed and said, "Yeah, you're shy." She said all that in the same tone one would use to talk to a 6-year-old. I managed to keep my expression schooled. Otherwise, I would have told her I'm not shy. I just chose to spend the whole party with the kids because they were better company than her and her annoying-ass boyfriend. So yeah, based on both my interactions with her, Harold's girlfriend is insufferable. In other words, they're perfect for each other. I don't have much else to add. My father broke up with the woman he was dating last year. Long fucking story. And has a new girlfriend. She is not annoying or psychotic, and I actually really like her. They won't last a year. My relationship with my father is still not perfect, by the way, but it has improved. He's actually started apologizing to me a lot more often. I don't know whether it's the therapy or the fact that motherhood has apparently made me terrifying, but I'll take it, and I'll give credit where it's due. He's a very good grandfather. I'm also glad my father is respecting this Harold boundary. I very much don't want this man in my life. Honestly, I'm pretty satisfied right now. My little boy is thriving. Part of me really misses the baby times, but I grow prouder and prouder every day. Getting to know my kid has been fantastic. Story 11. My husband turned 40 and suddenly became the man I married again. Original post April 24th, 2024. Hi, I'm new here. I create this account because something happened to my husband about a year ago, and I don't know what to make of it. My husband has always been a good man, and he's a wonderful father. He also has a great career and very driven to succeed. But after the kids were born, his passion for me had waned. He was once very affectionate and flirty, and he couldn't keep his hands off me. We had date nights and would take weekend trips filled with kissing, hand-holding, and a lot of sex. But after the kids, all of that began to fade, and it continued to the point that I felt like we were roommates. I kept myself in shape for him and initiated sex often. He would never turn me down, but it was lazy. It was basically get off quick and go to sleep. So after a while, I just stopped imitating. This continued for years, and I had just grown used to it. I still loved him. I had no desire to cheat or divorce. I just figured this is what happens after kids, and I'll just deal with it. Then, about a year ago, he got a babysitter and asked me if I wanted to go away for the weekend, just the two of us. I was shocked, but agreed. And the entire weekend he was affectionate and flirty and just fun. He hadn't acted this way in years. He was a completely different guy, and that included in the bedroom, too. This may be TMI, but my husband hadn't performed oral sex on me in 10 years, and every time he had before, he was kind of terrible at it. But while we were away, he just did it without asking, and he was amazing at it. This new attitude continued when we got home, and a few months after that, I started to notice that he had lost weight. Shortly after that, he started to look more toned as well. He had gotten a dad bod, but now he looked better than when we got married. I won't lie, I had difficulty keeping my hands off him. He's basically become the perfect husband overnight. I don't know what happened. He says he just wanted to be a better husband, but there was no event that triggered it outside of turning 40. Could that be it? I've read that middle-aged men sometimes get in shape because they are looking to cheat. But that's not the case. He's never cheated or had any desire to. We have lifestyle 360 for the kids, and I see where he is. It's work and home. I also see all his texts since we share an iPad. So I'm kind of stumped. TLDR. My husband suddenly became a perfect husband, and I don't know why. Edit. Thank you all for the comments. I will answer a few common questions. I see no testosterone in the house. Unless he's taking it at work and not telling me, then I don't think that's what it is. How did he become so good at oral? He did tell me that before he didn't like it. But now he does. I could tell before he was grossed out by it, and that affected how I felt about it. So right there was a change. But that doesn't explain how the man has become downright intuitive with oral and sex and generally. He has a sense of when to speed up, when to stay consistent, when I'm close, and how to get me there. I just don't know how that happened. That part didn't happen right away, but it didn't take long. Like I said above, cheating really isn't possible. I always know where he is and have for years. I can track him and so can the kids. He goes to work and comes home. And when he leaves the house, it is to the store or his parents, and I can see that too. Also, wouldn't you get in shape before the affair, not after it was over, because I have been hyper-vigilant and there's nothing. Relevant comment. Starry Dust 4444? It wasn't hard. I knew he wasn't cheating. Even if I didn't know where he was all the time, he really isn't the type to cheat. I tend to think most cheaters are narcissistic on some level, and that is the opposite of what he is. OOP. Cheating or looking to cheat was one of my fears, but no. As I mentioned in the post, there is really no possibility. I can see his texts, and we have Lifestyle 360, so I know where he is, and it's work and home. Plain Performance 2,795. It sounds like you're living the good life. But the only question I have is, how did he suddenly get so good? Did he practice? Did he search up some tips? It's a little suspicious. When I suspected my ex was cheating, she suddenly started doing home workouts and new tricks in bed. But I also learned how to do new stuff via tips and things, and got pretty good at most things, so it could be that as well. OP. He got better at sex by simply trying. Before it was basically pants off, pound, 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 and done. Now he actually takes his time, heats me up before entering me. He uses his mouth, he teases me. He's passionate now, where before he was just all business. And even when he does finally go inside me, he started using his hips and moving that thing around in there. I'm positive there was no cheating. Like I said, I can track him and I see all his texts as they come in. There was just never an opportunity. He had to have done some research, though. Update April 26th, 2024. I wanted to give an update on my post from a few days ago since everyone who commented was so helpful. I talked to my husband and asked him if he was taking testosterone as many of the commenters thought he was. He said no and was curious why I asked. So we talked a bit, and I really pressed him hard on what was going through his mind a year ago to make him change so much, and I was able to tease two things out of him. The first was an incident at work. It happened about 6 months before he made his transformation, and I knew about it at the time because he told me. He didn't make a really big deal about it, and barely mentioned it after telling me so. I just forgot it even happened until he mentioned it. My husband is a VP of finance at a rather large private company, and 2 members of his staff were engaging in an affair. The woman involved in the affair was married and about my age, and her husband had started to call the office. So it became a thing he had to deal with since he was their boss. He told me at the time, but I guess this saga dragged on for some months, and when the woman in question began to open up to others in the office regarding the reason she had the affair, some of those reasons hit home for my husband. Her husband was behaving much like he was, so he said that isn't going to be me and set out to fix it. The second thing I teased out of him is that he quit watching porn. Now, I do want to say that I don't care that he watched porn. I do myself on occasion. But when he watched it and obviously finished himself afterward, it drained any desire he had for me. I guess he started when the kids were really young and I was just exhausted all the time, and he just kept it up because it was easy. He quit because to fix our marriage he had to get that desire back for me. So he did it. So after this conversation, a lot of things make sense. I also understand why he didn't want to tell me. He didn't want me to think that the possibility that I could cheat had entered his mind. And the porn is sort of self-explanatory. Relevant comment. Matrim_Watt. I'm so glad to hear that you two talked about this. I'm also glad you drowned out the assumptions people were making about your husband in the original thread you made. OP, it wasn't hard. I knew he wasn't cheating. Even if I didn't know where he was all the time, he really isn't the type to cheat. I tend to think most cheaters are narcissistic on some level, and that is the opposite of what he is. When asked if her husband knew about or covered up the staff member's affair, well, none of that happened. He found out after the fact when the husband called HR and my husband directly. These people directly report to him, so obviously he had to manage the situation so that his department could still function and do their jobs.